Imagine yourself drifting along the banks of the Great Nile, centuries ago. As the sun slowly sinks behind distant hills, casting long golden streaks across the water, the river flows with quiet patience, carrying small boats of fishermen gliding silently across its mirrored surface. Smoke rises lazily from clay hearths, curling in soft spirals and carrying the faint scent of roasted grains, herbs, and simmering stews. Narrow streets wind between simple mud brick houses, their surfaces warmed by the last light of day, holding on to heat as shadows stretch and lengthen. In the fading glow, the village breathes slowly, each movement deliberate, unhurried, and full of purpose. Along the banks, fishermen carefully untangle nets, their fingers nimble and patient, attentive to each knot and loop. The gentle slap of water against wooden hulls forms a quiet rhythm, complementing the soft rustle of reeds swaying in the evening breeze. Women finish weaving baskets, their hands moving in patterns repeated countless times before. Each stroke, precise and soothing, their minds attuned to both task and the distant shimmer of the river. Others carry water from the canals, balancing small jars atop their heads, stepping lightly on the uneven pathways, aware of the darkening shadows creeping along the walls. Children wander near doorways, exhausted from the day's play along sandy streets, collecting pebbles or watching the flicker of lantern lights spill across the mud floors. Slowly, they settle under woven mats, their small bodies curling with the natural rhythm of evening sleepiness. The air carries a gentle chorus of frogs and nightbirds, blending with the occasional drip of water from nearby irrigation channels, creating a lullaby that is both familiar and soothing. The faint scent of damp earth rises from the canals, mingling with smoke, cooked bread, and the dry, warm aroma of sun-baked clay. Even as the village seems to pause, life continues in quiet patterns. Tuiles are cleaned and set aside, pottery stacked for the next day, and herbs hung above fires to dry, their gentle fragrance lingering in the still air. Each small act, though ordinary, holds its own quiet significance, a reminder of the steady care and attention woven into daily life. Hearths begin to glow softly in the homes lining the river. Flames flicker across mud walls, highlighting the texture of the walls, the curves of woven mats, and the familiar shapes of pots and bowls. Families gather around fires, their conversations hushed, voices low, blending with the ambient sounds of nature outside. Shadows dance across the walls as flames move and stretch, and the glow warms both bodies and hearts. This firelight marks a gentle boundary between the activity of day and the calm of night, signaling the time for reflection, rest, and quiet companionship. Even as the village slows, there is a steady undercurrent of life. Cats prowl softly near, doorways' eyes glinting in the firelight, while goats and sheep settle into pens, their breath steady and rhythmic. Chickens fluff feathers and settle on roosts, clucking softly until sleep overtakes them. Dogs curl near homes, half awake, half dreaming, listening to the soft cadence of human activity and river sounds. The entire village exists as a quiet, interconnected organism, each creature aware of the others, moving with care and patience through the fading light. The Nile itself is both guide and companion. Its calm surface reflects the changing colors of the sky's soft pinks, deep oranges, and fading purples merging into the approaching blue of twilight. Villagers have learned to observe these shifts, understanding that the river's moods signal time, weather, and seasonal transitions. Fishermen know the best spots for nets, guided by subtle ripples. Farmers note the level of water in the canals, predicting irrigation needs. Children learn to measure the day not by clocks, but by light and sound, by the slow hum of daily life. Time in these sleepy towns flows differently, more intimately, more naturally measured in tasks completed, in animals tended, in meals shared, in stories told by the fire. Evenings are also a time for quiet rituals. Some pause to offer grains to the fire, a small gesture of thanks for the day's harvest. Others whisper short prayers, honoring ancestors or unseen spirits, their voices soft and rhythmic. These acts are not dramatic, but they hold deep meaning, grounding villagers in a sense of continuity, gratitude, and peace. They signaled the end of labor and the start of reflection, a gentle reminder that life continues in cycles, steady and dependable. The mundane becomes sacred through care and attention. Food prepared slowly, mats laid out for children, lamps trimmed, and lit herbs arranged to dry, all small gestures forming a rhythm that is calming, predictable, and deeply comforting. As darkness deepens, the village is transformed into a landscape of gentle light and soft shadow. Lamps glow steadily within homes, flickering across walls and floors, illuminating quiet hands at work or resting faces framed in the gentle orange glow. The combination of firelight and lamp glow softens edges, blurring the boundary between inside and outside, creating a sense of warmth that spreads through alleys and over the river. Night sounds, frogs, distant dogs, water rippling, become part of a soothing symphony, each note precise, measured, and steady. In this soundscape, the mind begins to slow, breathing matches the gentle rhythm of the village, and a natural drowsiness takes hold. In the midst of this calm, one can notice the smallest details: the curve of a reed basket, the faint impression of footprints along the riverbank, the shimmer of moonlight across calm waters, the tiny sparks rising from the hearth. These ordinary things, often overlooked, form the essence of life along the Nile. They carry history not through grand events, but through quiet persistence, through repetition and care, through a shared commitment to nurture and sustain one another. By attending to these small acts, villagers participate in a timeless rhythm, one that has flowed along the river for generations, slow, steady, and intimate. As we follow the Nile's gentle bends, we see that life is measured not by haste but by attention. Each household prepares for night in its own way, yet all participate in a shared experience of calm. Children drift into sleep, animals settle in their pens, the fire's glow softens, and lamps illuminate spaces that will soon rest. Every motion, sound, and scent is part of a larger tapestry, a delicate weaving of time, care, and tranquility. Even the river seems to pause, flowing steadily yet unobtrusively, reflecting the night sky and the hearts of the villagers. Let yourself slow, breathe deeply, and step softly into these evenings. Notice the way shadows stretch, the subtle flicker of flame, the soft ripple of water. In these sleepy towns along the Nile, history is not found in battles or grand monuments, but in ordinary rhythms, in the steady pulse of daily life, and in the small gestures of care that repeat each night. Allow the quiet of the river, the warmth of homes, and the tender patterns of village life to envelop you, guiding your thoughts into a state of rest, reflection, and gentle wonder. Here, in this timeless world, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and calm becomes a companion. The stories, smells, and sounds of evening are not hurried. They stretch slowly, deliberately, allowing the mind to settle. The river whispers its age-old lullaby, the hearth hums with warmth, and the villagers await, sleep in perfect harmony with the night. As we begin this journey, take in the soft rhythms, the careful patterns, and the enduring serenity. Let the Nile carry you along its banks, past reed huts, flickering fires, and moonlit waters, into the quiet heart of history. As the sun sinks slowly behind the distant hills that border the Nile, the towns along its banks begin to exhale. The light softens, washing mud brick homes in gentle hues of gold and amber. Narrow streets, once bustling with the rhythm of labor, start to empty, leaving behind only the soft shuffle of bare feet on compacted earth. Fishermen ease their small boats toward the riverbank, nets heavy with the day's modest catch, their movements slow, deliberate, and full of practiced care. The water, reflecting the fading sunlight, shimmers quietly, a mirror to the calm sky above. The occasional ripple marks the passage of a boat, a fish jumping, or the gentle sway of reeds along the shore. Merchants begin closing their simple stalls, folding mats of linen, and carefully stacking reeds used for baskets or mats. The soft murmur of voices diminishes as neighbors exchange short, polite nods or smiles, signaling that the day's work is concluded. Children, tired from hours of play in dusty courtyards, chase one another briefly before pausing to rest. Some carry small clay jars, carefully balanced, as they fetch water from nearby wells or canals, the soft splash of liquid marking a quiet rhythm in the cooling evening. Their laughter is subdued now, mixed with the occasional clatter of a small object dropped by accident, reminding all that life, even in its stillness, is never completely silent. Above, the sky shifts in color, from warm gold to a soft pink, then to gentle shades of purple and blue. Shadows stretch across walls and streets, lengthening as the sun dips further below the horizon. The air, carrying the soft scent of the river, mingles with smoke rising from clay hearths. The smell of roasted grains and simmering stews drifting into the streets. Windows in mud brick homes glow with the warm light of fires, illuminating the interior as families gather to conclude the day. Some tend small gardens, pulling herbs or vegetables grown near the water's edge, while others sweep floors or arrange mats for children settling down to sleep. The village moves together in this gentle transition, each person guided by the natural rhythm of dusk, the river, and the slow fading of light. Alongside the river, the occasional reed boat drifts past, its occupant sitting in quiet reflection, perhaps watching the sun's descent, or listening to the gentle lapping of water. The river is both companion and guide, moving with a steady, calming flow, mirroring the pace of life in the town. Frogs begin their evening chorus, a low, steady sound that blends with the rustle of reeds and the distant calls of birds returning. Two hidden nests. This chorus forms a natural lullaby, one that encourages slowed breathing and reflective thoughts. Even the wind seems softened now, brushing against walls and thatched roofs in gentle waves that whisper through the town. In courtyards, families settle near small fires, adding sticks or reeds carefully, listening to the crackle as sparks rise briefly before fading. The firelight paints the faces of children and elders alike, highlighting small gestures, the careful placing of a bowl, the smoothing of a mat, the gentle touch of a parent brushing a child's hair. Conversations are hushed, voices low, full of calm reflection. Stories begin to emerge naturally, told by those with a memory of many seasons and years. They speak not of grandeur or conquest, but of animals seen along the river, of ancestors who tilled the land, of nights when the moon guided fishermen home. Each tale unfolds slowly, its rhythm mirroring the gentle movement of the river and the stretching shadows of the evening. Beyond homes, the canals that weave through the town carry small reflections of the twilight sky. Women pause at their edges, tending water plants, or simply resting with hands submerged in the cooling water, feeling its gentle current. Children skip small stones across the surface, the soft plop merging with the chorus of night sounds. Occasionally, a goat or sheep nudges its way through a pen, the gentle shift of straw on hooves, a subtle reminder of the daily partnership between humans and animals. Dogs wander near doorways, ears twitching at sounds, bodies curled in anticipation of sleep. All living beings, human and animal alike, participate in this shared moment of pause and reflection. As evening deepens, lamps are lit within homes. Small clay vessels filled with oil and a simple wick cast a soft glow, complementing the fire's amber light. Their gentle flicker illuminates hands, finishing tasks, mending a basket, arranging herbs, or smoothing the folds of a blanket. Even the simplest objects gain beauty in this illumination. Bowls, mats, and pottery glint softly, catching fragments of light that dance across walls. The combination of fire and lamp creates a layered warmth, both literal and emotional, enveloping families in comfort. It marks the space between day and night, between labor and rest, and guides the village gently towards slumber. Throughout the town, life continues in quiet, deliberate patterns. Pots are washed, tools are set aside, herbs and vegetables are stored, and small fires are tended with care. Each act, though ordinary, holds a rhythm that is calming and grounding. The repetition of these gestures gives the mind a sense of continuity, a feeling that life is orderly and dependable. Even in this stillness, one can notice the small movements of life, the flutter of a bird returning to a reed nest, the soft shift of a cat across a roof, or the faint shimmer of fish under the water's surface. Every detail contributes to the serene ambience, a careful layering of motion and sound that soothes the senses. The towns along the Nile are shaped by both geography and tradition. Their proximity to the river provides sustenance and guidance, while their simple architecture, mud brick walls, thatched roofs, and small courtyards offers protection and warmth. Life is measured by the rhythms of light, water, and labor, not by hours or minutes. Evening, in particular, embodies this natural measurement, a slow, observable transition that signals the close of activity, the sharing of food, and the preparation for rest. Each household, though unique, participates in a shared temporal pattern, reinforcing the cohesion of community and the gentle predictability of daily life. As the sky darkens, the moon rises, casting pale silver light across the river and rooftops. Stars begin to emerge, scattered across the heavens. small points of light that mirror the villagers' glowing hearths and lamps. Villagers pause too, glance upward, noting constellations that guide planting, fishing, and movement along the river. This nightly observation connects them to cycles far larger than the town itself, offering both guidance and quiet reassurance. The universe above reflects the careful order of life below, constant, dependable, and quietly mesmerizing. In this soft evening light, the village is at peace. Families share simple meals, finishing the day with nourishment and warmth. Children drift toward sleep, lulled by firelight and gentle voices. Animals settle in pens or near doorways, part of the nightly rhythm. Lamps flicker softly, fires crackle, and the river whispers its slow, patient song. Each detail, though ordinary, carries a subtle beauty and serenity that fills the senses and invites calm. This gentle arrival of dusk along the Nile reminds us that history is not always found in grand events or dramatic stories. Sometimes it is contained in quiet transitions, in small domestic acts, in the soft glow of fires and lamps, and in the patient flow of a river that has watched generations of life unfold along its banks. By noticing these small, often overlooked moments, we connect with the rhythm of the past and allow ourselves to slow, breathe, and rest, much like the villagers themselves. In the hours between sunset and deep night, the Nile town transforms into a haven of calm. Every sound, every movement, and every gesture is part of a carefully orchestrated evening. Fishnets folded, baskets arranged, mats spread, animals attended. The community exists in a gentle harmony, each member attuned to the pace of the river, the fading light, and the expectations of the night. Life continues, yet it does so without haste, encouraging a deep, reflective peace that settles in both the body and mind. Here, as the first stars appear and the moon climbs higher, we leave the bustle of daytime work behind and step into a world measured by patience, care, and quiet observation. We breathe alongside the villagers, noticing the soft sounds of water, the gentle sway of reeds, the muted laughter of children, and the protective warmth of firelight. Each evening unfolds like a soft story, a narrative of ordinary lives performed with care, intention, and attention to detail. Let yourself follow this slow current, tracing the river's edge, watching smoke rise from clay hearths, noticing shadows stretch across mud brick walls. In these moments, history is not a distant, abstract idea, but a lived, sensory experience. Twilight along the Nile is both temporal and eternal, a moment that occurs daily, yet connects countless generations. It is a space for reflection, for calm, and for quiet wonder. The gentle arrival of dusk marks the beginning of the night's embrace, inviting us to settle, breathe, and step softly into the serenity of these sleepy towns. In the heart of every home in the sleepy towns along the Nile, the hearth serves as more than just a place to cook or warm the body. It is the center of domestic life, a gentle anchor around which families gather as evening deepens. As the sun's last rays fade, villagers carefully add sticks, reeds, or pieces of wood to the small fires that burn in clay or stone hearths. Each addition is deliberate, each movement slow and considered. The crackle of flames rises softly into the room, a soothing rhythm that merges with the distant murmur of the river, the whisper of wind through reeds, and the muted calls of animals settling for the night. Even as the fire provides physical warmth, it also carries an invisible comforter, reassurance that life continues steadily, safely, and predictably. Around the fire, families gather in a natural, unhurried choreography. Children sit close to elders, their small hands resting on woven mats or furs, eyes reflecting the dancing flames. Parents and grandparents share quiet words, soft laughter, and occasional guidance, speaking in tones gentle enough not to disturb the rhythm of the evening. The fire casts moving shadows across walls, revealing the textures of mud brick, the curves of pottery, and the neat patterns of baskets stacked nearby. These visual impressions are calming, grounding the mind in the simple beauty of everyday objects that have been used, mended, and cherished over years. The flicker of light encourages reflection, slowing breathing and creating a subtle sense of security that permeates the household. Meals often continue beside the fire, though the pace is slow and unhurried. Clay pots bubble gently with stews of grains, lentils, or vegetables, the aroma mingling with the faint smokiness of the flames. Bread, baked on flat stones or in small clay ovens, gives off a comforting warmth and scent, the crust crackling faintly as it cools. Nuts, dried fruits, or simple dairy are offered to children, small gestures of care that reinforce bonds of family. Evenings are not rushed. There is no hurry to finish chores or return to sleep. Instead, the household moves together at the pace of the fire, allowing thoughts and movements to slow naturally. The act of eating, talking, and tending the fire becomes a meditation, a nightly ritual that soothes both body and mind. The fire also carries stories, both spoken and unspoken. Elders share tales of the river, of animals, of ancestors who lived along these same banks centuries before. Each story rises slowly into the room, the rhythm of words echoing the crackle of the flames. Children listen attentively, lulled by repetition, tone, and cadence. Stories are not rushed, they are drawn out, gently winding through imagination and memory. Sometimes the tales are practical, offering advice about planting, fishing, or caring for animals. Other times, they are whimsical, filled with observations of stars, rivers, or the changing seasons. Each story reinforces the sense of belonging, the understanding that family and community exist across time, tied together by care, warmth, and shared experience. Beyond its role in family life, the hearth is also a point of practical comfort. Fires are used to dry herbs, toast grains, or warm water for washing. Clay pots hanging above flames gradually release gentle heat, softening the air in the room and providing a tactile sense of security. Every item near the hearth, the woven mats, cooking utensils, small wooden or clay tools catches flickers of light, transforming ordinary objects into points of beauty and calm. Even the smoke is not unwelcome. It drifts lazily toward low ceilings, curling around rafters and settling into corners, carrying with it the quiet scent of home and the reassurance that work is done for the day. As evening deepens, the light of the fire softens further, emphasizing subtle movements and textures. Hands reach to adjust logs or stir a pot, each motion deliberate, each pause measured. Conversation slows naturally, punctuated by the low hum of insects outside, the distant ripple of river water, or the soft breathing of children drifting toward sleep. Time in these moments seems elastic, stretching gently as villagers allow the rhythms of life, fire, and night to synchronize. There is a subtle poetry in this synchronization, the gentle acknowledgement that life is steady, that each day concludes safely, and that the hearth is a shared space of continuity and care. The firelight also nurtures a sense of shared identity. By gathering in its glow, families reinforce bonds not only with each other but with the wider traditions of their town. Children learn the soft rituals of evening, adding a stick to the fire, stirring a pot, adjusting a mat, or listening attentively to a story. These actions, repeated across years and generations, become an intimate, understated form of education. They teach patience, observation, and reverence for everyday tasks. By witnessing and participating in these small rituals, young villagers absorb values of community, respect, and calm, learning that warmth and security are cultivated slowly and intentionally. Outside, the firelight spills into small courtyards, or along narrow alleys. Shadows stretch over mud walls, revealing hidden textures of plaster, indentations left by hands, and marks of daily life etched into the surface of homes. The streets are quiet now, footsteps few and soft, the occasional murmur of neighbors exchanging brief greetings as they pause near their own hearths. Beyond the village, reeds along the river sway gently, casting moving shadows that mingle with the firelight and create a seamless connection between inside and outside, human and natural environment. Even the river seems to absorb and reflect the gentle warmth, its surface dotted with soft reflections of light from lamps and fires along the banks. The rhythm of tending the fire is itself soothing. Logs are repositioned, ashes swept gently to one side, and small sparks occasionally rise into the air before fading. These minor acts are repeated without hurry, reinforcing calm and focus. As the fire consumes the wood gradually, warmth and light continue to fill the room, shaping a predictable, comforting cycle that signals the passage of evening. Villagers do not resist the slow fade of daylight, they align with it, allowing the fire to guide the pace of their thoughts, words, and movements. Even the simplest emotional expressions are enhanced by the fire's presence. A quiet smile, A gentle touch on a shoulder, the soft brush of a child's hand, all gain resonance in the glow. Laughter is hushed but richer, carrying softly into corners and reflecting off walls. Each expression contributes to the emotional warmth of the household, a subtle, unspoken reassurance that life continues in a safe and nurturing environment. The fire becomes both witness and participant, a silent observer of small acts of care, protection, and love. As night approaches, the flames gradually wane, leaving glowing embers that pulse softly, a reminder that warmth persists even as the day ends. Families remain close, seated near the fading light, their breathing slowing, their movements minimal. The fire has done its work, not only warming bodies but also calming minds, reinforcing bonds, and providing a stable rhythm for evening reflection. Children drift toward sleep, soothed by the residual warmth and the soft murmur of conversation, while elders continue quiet tasks, folding linens, preparing mats, or tending to tools with gentle care. The fire is more than a utility. It is a teacher of patience, a comforter in the night, and a symbol of continuity. Its presence allows villagers to transition naturally from activity to rest, providing structure without urgency, rhythm without noise. In the quiet, each member of the household senses the gentle pulse of life along the Nile, guided by the slow movement of water, the rustle of reeds, and the muted chorus of evening creatures. Through the fire, villagers connect to both immediate family and 2 centuries of tradition, passing knowledge, skills, and emotional stability to the next generation. In these moments, even the mundane becomes significant. The pattern of adding a stick, the sound of a pot simmering, the flicker of shadows across walls, each acts as a subtle signal that the day is ending, that life is continuing, and that the home remains a place of warmth and safety. Every breath, every movement, every quiet glance contributes to a shared experience of calm and security. The fire encourages mindfulness, inviting each person to notice textures, scents, and rhythms that might otherwise pass unnoticed. It shapes the environment, the mind, and the heart, uniting them in a gentle, deliberate harmony. As the embers finally begin to cool, the household remains a sanctuary of calm. The soft orange glow fades into the steady, gentle darkness of evening. Outside, the river reflects the moon and stars, creating a parallel glow that mirrors the warmth inside. The village, wrapped in the dual embrace of firelight and river reflections, exists in a state of quiet balance. Families rest near the hearth, their day complete, their minds softened, and their bodies prepared for the deep restorative sleep that will carry them into the next morning. The hearth, then, is far more than wood and flame. It is a center of life, a keeper of calm, a conduit for history, tradition, and care. It gathers families, holds them close, and teaches the rhythms of patience, attention, and shared experience. By watching flames, listening to the crackle, and participating in the slow rituals of evening, villagers experience a continuity that is both temporal and emotional, linking the present moment to generations past and future. In this gentle light, life feels steady, predictable, and safe, a reminder that the simplest things, fire, food, conversation, and touch, carry profound meaning in the rhythm of daily life along the Nile. Even as the night fully descends, the sense of warmth, security, and connection lingers. The fire's glow may fade, but its lessons remain: patience, attentiveness, and the quiet power of gathering together. Every small task, every shared glance, every whispered story adds to the slow rhythm of evening, creating an atmosphere of calm reflection and gentle comfort. It is in this soft embrace that villagers end their days, preparing for rest, reflection, and the renewal that comes with each dawn along the ever-flowing Nile. Evenings in the sleepy towns along the Nile were marked by the quiet preparation and sharing of simple, nourishing meals. As the sun sank low and the river reflected fading light, villagers turned from the day's labor toward food, not in haste, but with deliberate care. Pots of barley stew, lentils, or other grains simmered slowly over the hearth, their gentle bubbling forming a rhythmic backdrop to the evening. The scent of cooked vegetables, mingling with roasted herbs or onions, drifted through homes, mingling with the faint smoke of the fire. Bread, baked on heated stones or in small clay ovens, filled the room with warmth, the aroma rising in soft waves, comforting both body and spirit. These meals were modest in ingredients, but rich in purpose, connecting families to the steady, rhythm of daily life, and the abundance that the land provided. Each household approached evening meals as a quiet ritual, almost meditative in nature. Women and men moved deliberately, measuring grains, stirring pots, or kneading dough with steady, practiced hands. Children watched, learning the rhythm of preparation and the subtle techniques passed down over generations. Meals were never hurried. Rather, the pace mirrored the soft, reflective atmosphere of twilight. The simple act of preparing food allowed villagers to mark the day's transition, signaling that work was ending and rest was approaching. The sound of chopping vegetables, the rhythmic kneading of dough, and the occasional clatter of a wooden spoon against clay created a gentle, familiar symphony that complemented the natural sounds of river and wind outside. As families gathered around low tables, mats, or woven reeds, meals became more than physical nourishment. They were exercises in shared presence and reassurance. Each person served themselves slowly, mindful of others, with the understanding that what was shared was sufficient, and that cooperation and patience ensured everyone had their fill. Conversation was soft, measured, punctuated by gentle laughter or the low hum of children's curiosity. Stories about the day's events were recounted quietly: a catch from the river, a basket finished weaving, the growth of a garden plot. In these moments, meals became a way to connect with both the immediate household and the broader patterns of life along the Nile. The rhythm of eating, the warmth of food, and the companionship of family combined to reinforce a sense of continuity, comfort, and security. Food itself carried layers of history and meaning. Barley, grown along riverbanks, was a staple, its grains collected, dried, and stored carefully to last the year. Lentils and beans, simple yet sustaining, were prepared in ways that maximized flavor and nourishment, often enhanced with herbs such as coriander or fennel. Vegetables might include onions, leeks, or gourds, offering both taste and texture. Bread, baked in flat or slightly domed loaves, required patient attention, kneading, resting, shaping, and baking over hot stones. The smell of freshly baked bread was a constant comfort, a symbol that the day's labor had yielded sustenance, and that the household could face the night with confidence. Occasionally, small treats, dairy products like yogurt or cheese, dried fruits such as figs or dates, and roasted nuts would accompany the main meal, offering variety and delight. Even in modest homes, the sharing of meals reinforced bonds within the household. Parents guided children in table manners, portions, and patience. Elders sometimes reminded the young of ancestral recipes or the significance of particular foods. Weaving history into the act of eating, the meal became a form of education as well as nourishment. Children learned the tastes, textures, and aromas of their homeland, internalizing lessons of care, preparation, and respect for resources. Even the placement of dishes, the passing of bread, and the pouring of water carried subtle meaning, reinforcing cooperation, attentiveness, and gentle consideration for one another. Each evening meal was thus a microcosm of the village itself, orderly, deliberate, and supportive. Beyond the household, meals often reflected the broader rhythms of the Nile. Ingredients came directly from gardens, fields, or the river itself. Fresh vegetables and grains mirrored the cycles of planting and harvest. Fish, when available, were prepared with care, their flavors enhanced by minimal but thoughtful seasoning. Even water, drawn from wells or canals, was treated as precious, poured deliberately into clay cups, offering sustenance and quiet ritual. These connections tied the household to the land, reinforcing awareness that life depended on attentive care, patience, and respect for the natural world. The act of sharing food was thus intertwined with understanding one's place in a wider, cyclical system of life. Evenings unfolded slowly, the pace of meals reflecting the gentle progression of time. Children ate in fits of quiet curiosity, pausing to observe the fires flicker or the shifting light through small windows. Parents and elders spoke softly, describing the day's events, recalling familiar tales, or sharing guidance for tasks tomorrow. The combination of warm food, gentle conversation, and attentive presence created a space in which the household could breathe and settle. Every sip, bite, and gesture reinforced calm, patience, and a sense of belonging. The simple meal was, in essence, an anchor, providing structure and comfort as day transitioned into night. Preparation and cleanup were equally deliberate, extending the rhythm of the meal into evening routines, Pots and utensils were washed with care, stored in order for the following day. Leftovers were saved, wrapped in cloth or stored in cool corners, reflecting a culture of careful stewardship. Crumbs and scraps were gathered, sometimes fed to chickens or other domestic animals, emphasizing the circularity of life and the gentle attention to even the smallest elements. These practices maintained a sense of order, closure, and satisfaction, ensuring that both the home and its inhabitants were ready for rest. The fire remained central throughout, its warm glow illuminating pots, bread, and the faces of family members. Shadows danced on walls, creating a quiet visual rhythm that mirrored the sounds of simmering stews and soft conversation. The interplay of light and movement encouraged reflection, allowing each member of the household to feel both present and soothed. Evening meals, then, were not merely a practical matter. They were sensory experiences, engaging sight, smell, touch, and taste, creating a calm and immersive environment for relaxation and connection. Meals also served as a quiet bridge between the day's labor and the night's rest. Tasks completed, fields tended, fish caught, baskets woven were marked by the act of eating together. Each bite of food reinforced the accomplishment of work, providing both satisfaction and a gentle pause before sleep. Families did not rush. The meal extended the day naturally, allowing energy and attention to shift from physical effort to contemplation, storytelling, and the gentle observation of household routines. In this way, the evening meal became a natural meditation, a pause that harmonized the body and mind. The presence of multiple generations during meals added another layer of richness. Elders shared memories of past seasons, offering insight into river patterns, planting schedules, or the preparation of particular dishes. Children absorbed this knowledge not through formal instruction, but through the rhythm of shared life, watching, listening, and participating. Adolescents might assist in stirring pots, kneading bread, or setting mats, learning practical skills while reinforcing bonds of care and responsibility. The act of preparing and sharing food thus became an immersive, multi-generational exercise in patience, observation, and quiet competence. Even minor details contributed to the calm atmosphere. The placement of bread baskets, the pouring of water, the gentle clink of a spoon against clay ore punctuated the rhythm of the evening without haste or noise. Simple gestures, repeated daily, became reassuring markers of stability and continuity. The household settled naturally into this rhythm, each person attuned to the subtle signals of fire, light, and conversation. Attention to these small actions cultivated mindfulness, offering both comfort and a gentle focus for the mind as night approached. In these homes, the act of sharing food transcended necessity. It became a ritual of reassurance, a tangible reminder that the day's labors yielded sustenance, and that the household could move into night with security. Each meal provided nourishment, not only for the body but also for emotional well-being. Laughter, soft speech, and shared gestures created an invisible thread connecting family members, weaving a sense of continuity, care, and belonging. These threads were strengthened night after night, forming the quiet backbone of village life along the Nile. As the final dishes were cleared and the embers glowed low, the household lingered near the hearth, feeling the warmth of both fire and family. Children's eyelids grew heavy, parents' hands relaxed, and conversations slowed to a gentle murmur. The act of eating, cleaning, and settling reinforced a sense of completion, a quiet acknowledgement that today's efforts had been sufficient. The household, nourished and calm, prepared to transition into rest, carrying forward the warmth, comfort, and reassurance cultivated through the evening meal. In the end, the simplicity of meals along the Nile was its profound strength. Barley, lentils, bread, and occasional fruits provided sustenance. Fire, family, and conversation provided care. Together, they created a nightly ritual that grounded villagers in the present, connected them to their heritage, and prepared them for the restorative rhythm of sleep. In these quiet moments, one could sense the enduring pulse of human life, steady, nurturing, and deeply attuned to both the natural and familial environment. As the final crumbs of evening meals were gathered, and the soft glow of the hearth or clay lamps filled the home, another kind of warmth began to spread through the villages along the Nile, the warmth of stories. After long days of labor in fields, on boats, or at weaving looms, families and neighbors settled together, letting the day's work give way to the gentle rhythm of voices recounting tales. These stories were not hurried or dramatic. They unfolded slowly, like the river itself, meandering with care and patience. Elders spoke in calm, measured tones, their words echoing softly against mud-brick walls, through narrow alleys, and across the shimmering water. The language was simple, yet precise, drawing listeners in through repetition, rhythm, and the quiet cadence of memory. Each phrase lingered, allowing time for reflection, for mental pictures to form, for the mind to drift gently alongside the narrative. Children, curled under mats or leaning against parents, watched flickering shadows cast by lamps and fires, feeling both comfort and awe as tales rose like smoke into the night. The stories were varied, though each carried layers of meaning that linked daily life to the broader world. Some were about ancestors, their deeds remembered not for heroism, but for small acts of care, skill, and patience. A tale might describe a farmer patiently tending the fields, noticing the color of the soil, the growth of barley, and the movement of birds, showing listeners how attentiveness nurtured life. Other stories revolved around animals, weaving observations of goats, fish, and birds into narratives that taught empathy, responsibility, and harmony with the natural world. In some evenings, the Nile itself became a character, its waters swelling with seasonal floods, carrying both life and lessons. These tales reminded villagers that their lives were intertwined with the land and river, that small daily acts resonated within the wider pattern of existence. The structure of storytelling was gentle and familiar, yet subtly dynamic. Each night, stories shifted in minor details, reflecting changes in season, weather, or daily occurrences. A river flood might alter the path of a tale, or a successful harvest inspire a new anecdote. The subtle variations kept the tradition alive, preventing monotony while preserving its core lessons and structure. Children, in particular, delighted in noticing differences from one evening to the next, developing both memory and imagination. Adults appreciated the consistent framework, finding calm in repetition, even as minor changes reminded them of the flow of time. Stories became a nightly compass, guiding both young and old through practical wisdom, moral reflection, and emotional reassurance. Storytelling was also sensory. The gentle crackle of fire, the soft murmur of the river outside, and the occasional rustle of reeds or distant animal sound accompanied the narrative, anchoring it in the tangible world. Shadows flickered against walls, creating moving images that complemented spoken words, while the smell of smoldering oil or reeds lent a comforting atmosphere. Elders often gestured subtly, drawing attention to imagined scenes or actions, enhancing understanding without breaking the quietude. Listeners responded with gentle shifts, leaning closer, nodding, or murmuring soft laughter. These interactions were slow, mindful, and deliberate, reinforcing the intimacy of shared memory and the calming rhythm of the evening. Beyond imparting knowledge, stories nurtured emotional connection and security. Tales of family lineages reminded children of their place within an enduring network of care and belonging. Narratives of animals or river events conveyed caution and guidance without fear, teaching mindfulness and attentiveness. Even humorous anecdotes offered gentle relief, creating quiet moments of shared laughter that blended into the night's serenity. In this way, storytelling balanced instruction with comfort, imagination with observation, and reflection with togetherness. The evening became a sanctuary of voice, shadow, and memory, providing both structure and freedom within the household. The communal aspect of storytelling extended beyond individual homes. On some evenings, neighbors gathered near the water's edge, sharing tales that traveled with the river's gentle flow. Each village had its favored storytellers, often elders with long memories and careful, expressive speech. Listeners would cluster together, leaning on reeds, mats, or each other, forming circles of attention. The rhythm of the river and the chorus of evening insects accompanied these sessions, making the act of listening a holistic experience that engaged sight, sound, smell, and feeling. Stories were not merely entertainment, they were the vessel for cultural continuity, social cohesion, and emotional grounding. These narratives also connected the mundane to the extraordinary, weaving practical lessons into vivid imagery. A story might describe a fisherman observing the water for subtle shifts, teaching children to read environmental cues while imagining the glint of fish beneath the river's surface. A tale about a goat wandering the fields could emphasize care, observation, and kindness. Seasonal changes were often reflected. Floods, harvests, rains, or heat waves shaped the course of the stories, reinforcing awareness of natural cycles. By embedding practical knowledge within familiar tales, villagers cultivated attentive, thoughtful, and resilient minds without urgency or fear, encouraging reflection and calm. Even the pacing of stories was intentionally slow. Elders often paused to allow imagery to settle in the mind or to let the rhythm of words echo softly. Listeners were encouraged to imagine rather than visualize too quickly, to allow the mind to wander within safe boundaries of the tale. This unhurried approach encouraged a meditative quality, lulling the body toward relaxation while the mind engaged with gentle curiosity. The interplay of attention, imagination, and comfort prepared the household for the night's transition, bridging active wakefulness with the restful calm of early sleep. Children internalized lessons not just through words but through repetition, observation, and participation. Over time, they learned to predict story patterns, anticipate turns, and recognize familiar imagery, fostering memory, concentration, and a sense of belonging. Adolescents practiced telling small segments themselves, quietly at first, then with increasing confidence, reinforcing oral tradition. The storytelling circle became a dynamic, living practice, balancing stability with adaptation, offering each participant a role in maintaining cultural continuity. In this way, the household or village became both audience and classroom. Comfort and curriculum, imagination and reflection, all entwined in the gentle rhythm of evening. Food, fire, and storytelling formed a triad of evening calm. After the warmth of the hearth and the sustenance of shared bread, stories added emotional and cognitive nourishment. The sensory environment, the glow of lamps, the shifting shadows, the smell of oil and cooked grains, reinforced relaxation, while narratives cultivated a sense of time, place, and relational grounding. As the night deepened, the household felt enveloped in a cocoon of continuity, warmth, and gentle attention, each element reinforcing the other. The river outside mirrored this stillness, its slow, steady flow echoing the measured pace of human life along its banks. The evening ritual extended naturally into preparation for rest. As tales concluded, elders guided the household to settle, mats arranged for comfort, blankets adjusted, children eased into sleep. The stories had left a lingering sense of calm and belonging, a mental and emotional space that welcomed dreams. The transition from tale to sleep was seamless. Imagination carried forward gently, guided by rhythm, reflection, and the embodied patterns of the day. Sleep was not an interruption but a continuation, a soft passage from the world of shared history and lived experience into the private realm of dreams and renewal. Even in the quietest nights, the presence of storytelling shaped household consciousness. Dreams were informed by the gentle moral and observational patterns imparted, reinforcing attentiveness, empathy, and awareness of cycles in life and nature. The embedded lessons about the river, animals, seasonal shifts, and community continued to unfold subconsciously, creating continuity between waking and sleeping hours. In this way, stories functioned as both entertainment and subtle scaffolding for life's practical and emotional needs. Across generations, this nightly practice preserved knowledge that might otherwise have been lost. Elders' experiences, children's observations, and communal memory all intertwined, ensuring that practical skills, social norms, and gentle wisdom were passed on without force or stress. Even centuries later, the imprint of such evenings along the Nile could be felt in the rhythm of family meals, the attentive observation of nature, and the quiet, unhurried passage of time. As embers dimmed and lamps burned lower, the household settled into final silence. The river, steady and patient, whispered softly, animals rested, fires glowed faintly, and the last murmurs of children faded. The evening stories had woven threads of continuity, connection, and calm into the fabric of life, leaving a household ready to drift into night's embrace. The soft, immersive cadence of these narratives had anchored both mind and spirit, creating an enduring rhythm of attention, care, and belonging. Even after voices hushed, the impact of storytelling lingered. Shadows from the fire and lamps danced faintly, and imagination continued to trace paths through ancestral tales, river stories, and the gentle patterns of daily life. In these moments, life along the Nile felt unified. Labor, food, fire, stories, and sleep blended into a seamless rhythm that honored both the natural world and the human spirit. The household rested with assurance, nurtured by the accumulated wisdom and gentle care of generations. Through stories, villagers experienced continuity beyond individual experience, finding calm in the knowledge that life's rhythm would persist. They learned the slow, steady pulse of the river, the quiet cycles of crops and animals, and the enduring presence of family and community. Each night, as firelight waned and shadows deepened, storytelling ensured that both practical wisdom and emotional reassurance were carried into the private spaces of dreams, reinforcing the soft stability of life along the Nile. The long evenings of storytelling, then, were neither hurried nor dramatic. They were a gentle unfolding of memory, imagination, and attentive observation. They marked the passage of time, offered guidance, reinforced belonging, and prepared both young and old for rest. They made the ordinary extraordinary, the mundane meaningful, and the daily comforting. Each household carried the weight of history lightly, through the cadence of words and the quiet pleasure of shared attention. These evenings by the water's edge were, in every sense, moments of calm continuity, quietly shaping lives and sustaining cultural memory. As evening deepened along the Nile, homes that had relied on the warm blaze of hearth fires gradually welcomed another source of light, the soft, steady glow of clay oil lamps. These small vessels, filled with oil and fitted with simple wicks, became companions to households as daylight slipped away. Unlike the bright and sometimes unpredictable flare of a large fire, lamps offered gentle illumination, a calm presence that lingered quietly on tables, floors, and walls. Their flames were delicate, flickering in response to gentle drafts or the movement of hands, and yet persistent, like tiny sentinels guarding the household against the encroaching darkness. In the soft light, familiar objects, woven mats, wooden bowls, simple tools, and earthen pots took on a new, almost magical quality. Shadows danced slowly, lengthened by the uneven surfaces of walls and floors, turning mundane corners of a home into intimate, contemplative spaces. The interplay of flame and shadow encouraged quiet reflection, giving villagers a sense of ease after the busyness of the day. Clay lamps were simple, yet essential. Crafted from local materials, often shaped by hand, they were not merely functional, they were an integral part of the evening ritual. Each household maintained a few, sometimes more depending on family size, filling them with oil drawn from sesame or castor seeds, and trimming wicks carefully to ensure a steady burn. The act of preparing lamps, pouring oil, shaping the wick, and placing them strategically throughout the home was deliberate and soothing. It allowed villagers to slow their pace after the day's labor, to observe the quiet precision of small tasks, and to set the mood for the coming night. Even the scent of burning oil, faint but distinct, became a familiar signal that work was done, meals were finished, and reflection could begin. The effect of these lamps on daily life was subtle but profound. They extended the usability of space beyond the fleeting moments of daylight, allowing people to continue gentle work, mending baskets, weaving cloth, or preparing herbs, long after the sun had disappeared. Children might sit nearby, watching the flame, tracing its movements with their eyes, or practicing small tasks under its soft guidance. The warm glow offered comfort and stability, providing a visual anchor in a world where night could otherwise feel overwhelming. Villagers were never rushed by darkness. Instead, the steady presence of lamplight created a sense of time moving with calm regularity. Even in the quietest homes, the rhythm of evening unfolded in the gentle presence of these lights. Parents might sit on woven mats, sorting grains for the next day, while children leaned against them, softly humming tunes learned from elders. The flickering lamplight enhanced the textures and colors of clay walls, rough timber beams, and woven baskets, turning familiar objects into elements of quiet observation and gentle wonder. Each movement, each gesture, was highlighted subtly by the light, making even the simplest tasks feel meaningful and deliberate. Lamps transformed domestic life, giving ordinary evenings a sense of ceremony and continuity. Beyond practical use, lamps held symbolic meaning. They were reminders of human ingenuity, the ability to create light and warmth from natural resources. They represented care. Someone had tended the wick, ensured oil was available, and placed the vessel where it could best serve family members. The soft glow of the lamp encouraged mindfulness, a slower, more attentive approach to life. Villagers observed not only the objects illuminated, but also the spaces between them, noticing shadows and textures in a way that nurtured observation and calm. The practice of lighting lamps became intertwined with evening contemplation, marking a transition from active labor to restful awareness. Across villages along the Nile, lamplight was a shared experience, linking homes and families through subtle visual continuity. From the riverbank, one could see clusters of small glowing points along streets and courtyards, each home casting its gentle warmth into the night. The effect was both practical and aesthetic, providing guidance for movement and work while creating a sense of collective presence. Even strangers passing through could feel the rhythm of the community, reassured by the gentle glow that indicated life, care, and attention within. The lamp's light was never harsh or intrusive. It invited softness, reflection, and quiet dialogue. Children, especially, developed a relationship with these lights that went beyond functionality. Watching the flame, learning to adjust the wick, and understanding how much oil was needed were all small lessons in observation, patience, and responsibility. These early experiences fostered attentiveness and care, preparing young minds for the rhythms of adult life. Children also used lamplight for storytelling, drawing shadows on walls, or simply marveling at the subtle dance of flame and shadow. Even play became intertwined with awareness, imagination, and gentle engagement with the household environment. Evening tasks in lamplight often involved small repairs, maintenance, or preparation for the next day. Baskets were mended, tools cleaned, grains sorted, and clay pots checked for cracks. These activities, simple as they were, reinforced the continuity of life, offering calm repetition and a sense of preparedness. The lamp, steady in its glow, served as a companion to these tasks, keeping the household anchored in the present, while also marking the passage of time. Work in lamplight was unhurried, deliberate, and intimate, contributing to both practical success and emotional well-being. The positioning of lamps in the home was considered carefully. Near the hearth, they complemented the fire, filling corners where warmth did not reach fully. On tables, they illuminated food preparation or reading of simple texts. In corners, they offered enough light to keep spaces navigable without intruding on the mood of calm. The gentle halo produced by the clay vessels softened edges, transforming objects and faces, lending a dreamlike quality to everyday life. Evenings became a canvas of soft light and shadow, encouraging reflection and attentiveness, nurturing a rhythm that led naturally into rest. In communal spaces, lamps served similar purposes. Market stalls, temple entrances, and river docks sometimes retained oil lamps, even as most work ended, signaling preparation for night and providing guidance to those moving through public areas. The light was modest but reassuring, blending with the quiet movement of people concluding their day, adding to a landscape of calm that extended beyond individual homes. Even the reflection of lamplight on water, whether in small basins, canals, or the Nile itself, added a subtle layer of serenity, connecting the household to the environment. The aesthetic and emotional impact of lamps was reinforced by the sensory experience. The soft scent of oil, the gentle warmth of nearby flames, and the flicker of shadows created an atmosphere of comfort and mindfulness. Villagers learned to associate these sensory cues with calm and safety, developing a ritualized approach to evening life. The process of lighting lamps, observing their glow, and settling into the household's quiet spaces became an integral component of mental and emotional well-being. Even in households without many resources, lamplight mattered. A single clay lamp on a table or windowsill could transform the feel of a home. Its modest glow turned simple meals into quiet ceremonies, routine work into attentive practice, and bedtime preparation into a reflective, soothing experience. The universality of this practice reinforced a sense of connection, not only within families but across the Nile towns, reminding all that care, attention, and calm could be maintained with small, deliberate actions. As night deepened, lamplight gradually complemented the dimming fire, guiding the household toward sleep. Children, soothed by familiar patterns of light, shadow, and warmth, drifted toward rest. Adults completed their final tasks with minimal movement, appreciating the clarity and calm that the lamp provided. The soft illumination invited reflection, allowing thoughts of the day to settle gently, without urgency or tension. Within these glowing circles, the household moved seamlessly into a slower rhythm, anchored by both light and ritual. Evenings illuminated by lamps became repositories of culture, habit, and emotional stability. Storytelling, weaving, food preparation, and rest were all shaped by the presence of flame, encouraging attentiveness, calm, and a gentle awareness of time. The rhythm of light guided human behavior in ways both practical and poetic, linking work, care, and reflection to a continuous cycle of attention and rest. Over generations, these patterns shaped social cohesion, mindfulness, and a sense of belonging. In the quietest hours, when the last lamp burned low and fire embers dimmed, households felt enveloped in calm. Shadows softened and merged. Objects became ethereal, and the physical and mental spaces of the home aligned with the gentle flow of life. The lamp's light, though modest, held power, a symbol of continuity, care, and peace. Villagers understood intuitively that these soft glows guided both daily routine and nightly transition, serving as companions, guardians, and teachers. The soft glow of lamps also fostered introspection. Individuals could observe the texture of clay walls, the shape of tools, or the arrangement of simple furniture, noticing patterns previously overlooked during daylight labor. This observation nurtured mindfulness, patience, and emotional balance, providing a calm anchor for reflection before sleep. Evening routines became both practical and contemplative, blending sustenance, labor, learning, and rest into a seamless flow. By blending the glow of hearth fires with the gentle illumination of clay lamps, households achieved a harmony of light, warmth, and quiet attentiveness. Tasks were completed with grace. Children learned through observation and gentle participation, and the rhythm of evening was reinforced. The simple presence of a flame taught lessons of care, steadiness, and patience, connecting present experience with ancestral knowledge and environmental awareness. Even in the hours approaching midnight, the lamp continued its subtle work. Its flame flickered quietly against walls and ceilings, creating patterns that encouraged reflection and calm. Those still awake were guided gently toward rest, their attention drawn to the subtle dance of shadow and light, rather than urgent tasks or distant noise. The household, cocooned in glow and warmth, felt both intimate and secure, supported by the steady rhythm of small flames. Thus the clay lamp became more than a source of light. It was an essential companion of evening life along the Nile. It shaped activity, nurtured mindfulness, guided sleep, and reinforced cultural continuity. Its humble glow illuminated not just the physical space, but also the rhythm, emotion, and thought of those dwelling within. Villagers learned to move with care, observe with attention, and rest with assurance, all within the serene glow of this small, enduring flame. As the sun dips behind distant hills and the golden light fades from the Nile's surface, the rhythm of daily life in the sleepy towns continues in subtler, quieter ways. Even after the main labors of the day, fishing, farming, weaving, and trading, villagers attend to small, deliberate tasks that carry them gently into night. These evening activities are never rushed. They move with the soft pace of tired limbs and contemplative minds. In every home, a sense of calm purpose pervades the air, as each task, no matter how ordinary, becomes a part of the evening ritual, a bridge from the busyness of day to the stillness of night. Baskets, woven earlier in the day, might be repaired with careful fingers, mending frayed reeds or reinforcing worn handles. The process is rhythmic, almost meditative, allowing villagers to notice small details and appreciate the craftsmanship inherent in simple tools. Nearby, mats made of straw or reeds are straightened, brushed clean, and arranged for sleep. The repetition of these motions offers a comforting assurance. The day's work is honored, the household remains orderly, and the future tomorrow can arrive with promise rather than worry. Pottery, too, receives gentle attention. Clay jars, bowls, and cooking vessels are inspected for cracks or chips, washed in cool water from the river, and stacked carefully to preserve their integrity. Each jar tells a story of utility and patience, shaped by hands that know both the fragility and endurance of clay. By handling these objects with care, villagers reinforce the quiet lesson that even small things deserve attention and respect. This attentiveness, though simple, cultivates calmness and mindfulness, allowing people to slow their thoughts as well as their bodies. Herbs and grains prepared during the day are often finished or stored in the evening. Aromatic herbs, coriander, or dried flowers might be hung above hearths or placed in baskets to dry, their gentle fragrances mingling with the faint smoke of fires. Grains, carefully threshed and sorted, are stored in clay or woven containers, ready for future use. These motions, though ordinary, create a sense of rhythm and continuity, anchoring the household to natural cycles and reinforcing the gentle passage of time. Evening tasks connect humans to their environment, turning chores into a subtle dialogue with the land, the river, and the seasons. Even outside the homes, quiet work persists. Along the Nile's edge, irrigation channels are checked for debris, ensuring water flows smoothly to fields and gardens. Nets left to dry after a day of fishing are untangled and spread evenly under the soft twilight. Occasionally, a villager retrieves a stray tool or collects firewood for tomorrow, each action deliberate, careful, and unobtrusive. These activities are not burdensome but carry a serene sense of completion, a way to close the day fully before surrendering to rest. Children, too, participate in this evening rhythm. While the older villagers repair baskets or sort grains, younger hands help with lightweight chores, learning patience and dexterity in the process. They may carry small bundles of herbs, sweep mats, or assist in stacking pottery. The repetition of these motions, coupled with the soft guidance of parents or grandparents, fosters attentiveness, calmness, and a sense of responsibility. Evening work is not a test of endurance, but a gentle introduction to life's quiet patterns, teaching lessons of care, observation, and the importance of ordinary acts. The tactile nature of these chores adds another layer of sensory comfort. Hands feel the texture of rough reeds, smooth clay, or soft herbs. Fingers trace the weave of mats or the grooves in pottery. The sounds of soft scraping, rustling, or water trickling create a subtle symphony of nightfall, complementing the distant calls of birds or the quiet lapping of river water. Each sound, each sensation, signals a transition from action to stillness, from the active world to a space of reflection and rest. Evening tasks also encourage mental reflection. As villagers sort grains, repair tools, or hang herbs, their minds can wander softly, recalling the events of the day, observing minor changes in the environment, or contemplating plans for tomorrow. This blending of physical activity and gentle thought allows people to release stress while maintaining a sense of accomplishment. Tasks are completed at a natural pace, without urgency, emphasizing the harmony of work and rest, presence and reflection. The lighting of these evening spaces contributes further to the calm atmosphere. Faint firelight from hearths or the soft glow of clay lamps illuminates the work area, casting gentle shadows on walls, floors, and tools. The interplay of flame and object enhances focus, encouraging villagers to move deliberately and attentively. The combination of visual warmth, soft tactile sensation, and steady motion creates a meditative environment where even the simplest chores become a part of the household's rhythm and a bridge into the tranquility of night. As work continues, the village itself seems to exhale. Streets quiet, neighbors retreat into homes, and even the sounds of animals soften. Chickens settle into roosts, goats huddle in pens, and dogs curl near doorways. The gentle motions of evening chores echo softly against this backdrop, reinforcing the sense that all is in its proper place. Human actions harmonize with the natural world, weaving a tapestry of calm that extends from hearths to riverbanks and from fields to sky. Many tasks performed at night carry forward traditions passed through generations. Basket weaving, pottery handling, and herb drying are skills taught with patient demonstration, repetition, and soft encouragement. Elders guide younger villagers, not with urgency or pressure but with careful observation and gentle correction. Knowledge flows quietly, embedded in action rather than words, and each evening serves as both practice and preservation of culture. Work becomes a living narrative, linking the present moment to centuries of skill, care, and attention. The repetition inherent in evening chores offers psychological comfort, knowing that the day's labor is properly concluded, that tools are ready, and that materials are stored safely provides reassurance. This sense of completion softens anxieties and encourages a smooth transition to rest. Villagers leave tasks, knowing they have honored their daily responsibilities, and this completion fosters mental clarity, emotional balance, and a calm readiness for sleep. Even the simplest acts, sweeping floors, stacking baskets, or arranging mats, carry significance in this evening context. Each motion is deliberate, echoing a rhythm that mirrors natural patterns: the setting sun, the flowing river, and the slow drift of clouds. Time feels expansive, measured not by urgency, but by the careful cadence of work and preparation. In these moments, the physical world and human experience align, offering a soothing continuity that reinforces well-being and community cohesion. Beyond the household, evening work occasionally extends to shared spaces. A villager may help a neighbor repair a roof or carry water to communal wells. These quiet collaborations are performed without fanfare, blending seamlessly into the evening's rhythm. Such acts nurture connection, empathy, and shared responsibility, reinforcing social bonds while maintaining a soft, meditative pace. Evening tasks thus encompass both private care and communal harmony, creating a layered sense of belonging. The transition from active work to rest is made smoother by these small, deliberate chores. As the final baskets are repaired, mats laid, and herbs hung, a sense of closure settles over the household. The river's gentle murmur and distant bird calls complement the physical completion of tasks, signaling that the day has ended, the evening is secure, and rest is appropriate. Even the youngest children absorb this rhythm, internalizing the cadence of life along the Nile, learning to match their pace to the natural and human cycles around them. Through all of this, villagers experience a profound sense of calm. Evening tasks are neither urgent nor taxing. They are deliberate gestures of care, reflection, and preparation. They provide continuity, reinforce traditions, and nurture attentiveness. Each completed chore resonates softly within the household, creating an atmosphere of satisfaction, security, and gentle anticipation of sleep. Life moves in a slow, reassuring rhythm, anchored by these acts, and the river's soft flow mirrors the pace of human activity. As the night progresses, the final chores are completed, tools are stored, baskets set aside, and the home becomes orderly and ready for rest. The steady presence of lamplight or hearth flames guides movement, ensuring safety and comfort. Villagers linger a little longer, savoring the gentle satisfaction of completion, before allowing themselves to surrender fully to sleep. The quiet work of evening has prepared both body and mind for rest, transforming ordinary acts into a ritual of transition and reflection. Through this blending of utility, care, and reflection, evening tasks along the Nile towns offer more than productivity. They provide rhythm, mindfulness, and calm continuity. The motions of hands, the soft interplay of light and shadow, and the repetitive yet meaningful gestures cultivate a tranquil environment. This quiet, deliberate evening life allows villagers to leave the day behind with satisfaction, preparing both home and self for the restorative embrace of night. As the evening deepens along the Nile, the household settles into a quieter, softer rhythm, one attuned to the gentle needs of its youngest members. Children, having spent the day exploring, playing, and learning, gradually draw closer to the hearth, the soft glow of firelight illuminating their small faces. Tiny feet, once active and restless, now move slowly, guided by the natural cadence of evening tasks winding down. Parents or elders carefully lay woven mats or soft animal furs upon the smooth earthen floors, creating a comforting nest in which each child can rest. These spaces are modest yet intentional, designed for warmth, familiarity, and the subtle security that comes from being near those who care for them. As children curl beneath these mats, the soundscape of the home transitions from the rhythmic work of adults to a gentle auditory tapestry meant to soothe. The faint crackle of firewood in the hearth provides a steady, hypnotic backdrop, while the occasional drip of water from an irrigation canal or the distant calls of birds returning to their roosts add soft, natural punctuation to the evening. Parents may hum simple melodies, tunes without words, gentle repetitions that rise and fall like the flow of the river outside. These hums are quiet, deliberate, and reassuring, encouraging children to align their breathing and pulse with the calming rhythm of the home. The process of preparing for sleep is gradual. Children are not rushed or hurried. Rather, their movements are mirrored by the slow pace of adult activity. Mats are straightened, blankets tucked, and small hands may trace familiar objects woven. Baskets, simple toys, or clay vessels absorbing their textures as a means of grounding before sleep. This tactile engagement offers a gentle bridge between the vibrant activity of the day and the tranquil stillness of night. The physical act of settling beneath a mat or fur is mirrored by a mental settling, a winding down of thoughts and energies that encourages calm, focused attention to the present moment. Throughout this evening ritual, children learn more than rest. They absorb patterns of behavior, patience, and attentiveness from the adults around them. Observing parents finish chores, fold baskets, or tend to simple fires, children internalize a sense of order and responsibility, not through instruction but through quiet modeling. The repetition of these nightly routines fosters predictability and security, allowing children to anticipate what comes next, which itself is profoundly soothing. Security grows from familiarity, and familiarity is woven into every evening gesture. From the hum of a song to the warmth of a nearby adult hand, the lighting of the space is critical in cultivating this calm environment. The soft glow of the hearth, paired with flickering clay oil lamps, creates a halo of warmth and gentle shadow. Flames dance lightly across walls and floors, casting familiar shapes that shift imperceptibly with each passing moment. Shadows lengthen and contract, but they are never threatening. Rather, they contribute to a sense of rhythm, a visual metronome that mirrors the river's slow, steady flow. Children watch, often silently, as these shapes and lights change, learning to connect movement, time, and observation in a tranquil, non-demanding way. As night deepens further, the adult's attention to household quietude reinforces the serenity needed for sleep. Conversations soften to whispers or cease entirely, and even the tasks that remain, stacking wood, finishing minor repairs, or checking the safety of animals, are done with deliberate slowness. Every action signals to the children that the day is complete and that it is time to surrender to rest. The household itself becomes a gentle teacher, communicating through environment, sound, and ritual, offering reassurance without words. Outside the immediate home, the village itself contributes to the ambience that supports children's sleep. The Nile moves silently under moonlight, its surface reflecting stars that are mirrored in calm, slow-moving water. In nearby fields, livestock settle, their breathing steady, adding soft, rhythmic sounds to the nighttime landscape. Occasionally, the bark of a dog or the faint shuffle of a neighbor returning home punctuates the calm, but these sounds are distant and familiar, reinforcing rather than disrupting the evening's atmosphere. Children learn, consciously or unconsciously, to distinguish between background rhythm and sudden disruption, a skill that fosters both awareness and comfort in the natural world. Nighttime hygiene and simple comforts are integrated into this ritual. Parents might rub children's hands and faces with lightly scented herbal oils, cool or warm water, or leaves from local plants known for their soothing qualities. Such gestures, repeated over many evenings, cultivate trust, reinforce bodily awareness, and link sensory experience to calm and safety. A small sip of warm, mildly sweetened liquid herbal infusions or diluted milk may follow, providing both warmth and subtle reassurance, closing the day in a nurturing, sensory manner. Children often drift into dreams while still partially observing the world around them. Some watch the flicker of firelight on walls, tracing familiar patterns. Others notice shadows moving across mats or the soft undulation of blankets. Even as consciousness begins to fade, the environment supports continuity and familiarity, which is critical in fostering restful sleep. The layering of sound, smell, touch, and light creates a holistic sensory cocoon, a bridge from wakefulness to the restorative rest of night. For older children, evenings also offer quiet moments of reflection. Sitting near the fire or beside parents, they might replay the events of the day in gentle mental rehearsal, noticing small successes or simple joys: a caught fish, a woven basket completed, a moment of laughter. These reflections are framed within the calm rhythm of household life, rather than external pressure or performance. The repetition of this nightly reflection nurtures emotional resilience and patience, preparing children to meet the following day with steadiness and calm. The role of storytelling remains intertwined with the sleep ritual. Even brief narratives, small anecdotes of daily life, local animals, or natural phenomena, woven into bedtime routines. Elders may tell short stories, sometimes improvised, sometimes traditional, but always softly spoken and rhythmically delivered. The cadences of these tales match the environment, the soft crackle of fire, the distant flow of the river, and the gentle rustle of reeds in evening wind. Children absorb lessons of morality, observation, and connection to the natural world through these quiet, understated narratives, internalizing culture and values without the weight of formal instruction. Physical closeness also matters. Children often sleep near siblings or parents, sharing warmth and scent, reinforcing safety and connection. The touch of a hand, the gentle adjustment of a blanket, or the soft reassurance of a parent's presence communicates care and security far beyond words. In these moments, the household functions as both educator and protector, shaping children's understanding of trust, community, and the rhythm of daily life. The continuity of this environment nurtures not only sleep, but also social and emotional development. As night progresses, the pace of adult activity slows further. Hearth fires burn low, lamps flicker softly, and even the soft hums of adults fade into silence. The village itself seems to exhale, a collective surrender to the quiet of night. Children drift deeper into sleep, breathing slow and even, limbs fully relaxed, minds gently guided into dream. The transition is seamless, from the deliberate, meditative pace of evening chores to the secure cocoon of familial warmth and light. Children learn the patterns of rest and the comfort of predictability. Even the smallest household objects contribute to this tranquil atmosphere. Woven baskets, clay pots, and mats are placed with intention, providing subtle visual cues that the day is complete. The gentle clink of pottery, the soft rustle of straw mats, and the occasional whisper of clothing or textiles are integrated into the lullaby of night. Children learn to associate these tactile and auditory signals with safety, calm, and the inevitability of rest. In essence, the evening routine in these Nile towns is a choreography of care, light, sound, and motion designed to shepherd children gently towards sleep. It is deliberate, yet unobtrusive, rich in sensory detail, yet never overwhelming, and steeped in centuries of practice and tradition. From the warmth of firelight to the rhythm of quiet tasks, from soft hums to tactile engagement with familiar objects, every aspect of the evening contributes to a state of calm readiness for rest. Through these rituals, children internalize patterns that shape their understanding of home, security, and the gentle passage of time. They learn patience, attention, and the comfort of repetition, all of which support both restful sleep and emotional growth. In the hush of night, as the river reflects starlight and the village sleeps in quiet harmony, children drift seamlessly into the embrace of dreams, carrying with them the rhythms, textures, and warmth of their small world. As darkness deepens over the Nile, the village gradually transforms under the quiet dominion of the night sky. The sun has long disappeared behind distant hills, leaving a pale afterglow along the western horizon, which slowly fades to deep indigo and then to the black velvet of night. Above, a scattering of stars begins to emerge, faint at first, then growing steadily brighter as the last traces of twilight vanish. The constellations familiar to villagers Orion's belt, the Pleiades, and others whose names and patterns have been passed down through generations rise, slowly, their placement and movement charting the rhythms of the year. Observing these stars, villagers gain not only guidance for planting and traveling, but also a quiet sense of orientation, a reminder that life follows cycles far larger than any one day or season. The sky is a living calendar, a storyteller, and a guardian, all at once, and its beauty evokes wonder without urgency. From the small mud brick homes along the riverbank, families step outside or linger at open doorways, allowing the cool night air to brush against their skin. The scent of damp earth and river reeds mingles with the faint smoke from fires burning low inside homes. The river itself mirrors the stars, its surface broken only by the occasional ripple of a passing fish or a small boat drifting silently. On the current, the reflection of the heavens on the water doubles the sense of vastness, making the universe feel intimate yet infinite. Children, eyes wide and curious, point out constellations and listen as elders recount the tales associated with each cluster of stars, linking celestial patterns to stories of ancestors, animals, and deities. These narratives are gentle, rhythmic, and familiar, designed to inspire awe without alarm, to cultivate a sense of place and belonging rather than fear or excitement. Villagers often use these moments under the night sky for contemplation. Farmers might look at Orion and Pleiades, recalling when the flooding of the Nile should begin, or which crops need tending in the coming weeks. Fishermen, attentive to subtle shifts in moonlight and starlight, plan their next outings, noting the way silver light spreads across the water. Even as practical considerations guide some observations, the sky is never reduced to utility alone. Its expanse offers perspective, a silent reminder of continuity and the passing of time beyond any one human life. As eyes drift upward, thoughts soften, and the busy movements of the day recede, replaced by calm reflection and the gentle hum of awareness that life continues steadily, guided by natural order. The moon, often rising or setting in tandem with stars, adds another layer of tranquility. Its soft, silvery glow illuminates the riverbanks, casting long, gentle shadows of date palms, reeds, and mud brick homes. The play of moonlight on water, flickering and shimmering with each small ripple, is mesmerizing in its slow, unhurried rhythm. Villagers recognize these patterns as familiar companions. The moon's phases mark time, signify planting schedules, and signal religious observances or minor festivals. Children watch the moon, sometimes tracing its path across the sky with outstretched fingers, learning to predict its movement as a quiet exercise of observation. Even the faintest breeze, carrying the smell of the river and distant flowers, interacts with this lunar light, rustling reeds and creating a soft symphony of sound and shadow. As the village settles further into night, small lights from clay lamps or hearths punctuate the darkness, echoing the stars above. These lamps flicker in rhythm with the firelight, casting small, warm circles of illumination around doorways and mats. The juxtaposition of human-made and celestial light is calming. The vast, unchanging brilliance of stars and moon overhead complements the soft, familiar glow of fire and lamp below. This combination fosters a profound sense of security, grounding observers in both the immense universe and the intimate, cared-for space of home. Adults and children alike are encouraged to linger outside briefly, inhaling the cool night air, watching shadows stretch and fold, and allowing the mind to absorb the soothing, repetitive patterns of celestial movement. Elders play a particularly important role in these nightly observations. They point out constellations and trace their stories, explaining how each cluster relates to agricultural cycles, seasonal migrations, or moral lessons. A discussion of Orion might be followed by a reflection on how the river provides sustenance, how animals respond to lunar cycles, and how human life fits within these larger rhythms. Stories are never rushed. They are repeated night after night, each retelling slightly different, shaped by the speaker's mood, minor changes in environment, or questions from children. This continuity of storytelling fosters deep emotional stability, as listeners internalize lessons not through force but through the soft repetition of narrative, light, and the steady presence of family and community. The children, lulled by the rhythmic language of these tales and the soft patterns of starlight, begin to internalize both observation and imagination. Some close their eyes under the gentle watch of adults, allowing dreams to mingle with memories of riverbanks, reeds, and constellations. Others lie on mats, fingers tracing familiar shapes on walls, still alert but calm, slowly learning to distinguish between wakefulness and the creeping serenity of night. Their breaths deepen and synchronize with the ambient rhythm of the river, the rustling reeds, and the distant hoot of an owl. In this cocoon of sensory experience, sleep arrives gradually, unforced, and deeply restorative. Throughout the village, the interplay of night sounds adds to the tranquility. The murmur of water lapping against boats, the soft bleating of goats settled in pens, and the distant croak of frogs blend with the gentle rustle of reeds. These natural sounds are part of the nightly symphony, as constant and dependable as the stars themselves. The villagers have learned, over generations, to interpret these sounds without alarm. They signal safety, order, and the enduring rhythm of life. Children absorb this knowledge almost unconsciously, building a framework for understanding the natural world and their own place within it, all while moving gently toward rest. The architecture of homes also plays a subtle role in this evening. Ritual, mud walls absorb and radiate the last warmth of the day, while softening the intensity of both firelight and moonlight. Small windows frame particular views of the sky, sometimes perfectly aligned with rising or setting stars, serving both practical and symbolic purposes. From within, families may look outward through these apertures, observing celestial patterns and sensing their connection to a larger cosmos. The combination of indoor warmth and outdoor expanse reinforces the duality of human experience. Intimate domestic life, nested within the infinite continuity of the universe. Seasonal variation enhances this nightly experience. In winter, stars shine with crystalline clarity, the moonlight reflecting sharply off the cold river surface. Summer nights are warmer, and a gentle breeze shifts reeds, carrying earthy scents that blend with the fragrance of cooked meals. In spring, constellations are observed alongside the sounds of newly hatched birds or the distant croak of frogs, while autumn evenings may feature slightly earlier darkness and more intense firelight inside homes. The villagers are tuned to these subtle changes, teaching children to notice the differences and respect the natural ebb and flow of life. Each season adds a distinct texture to night observation, offering both variety and reassurance in the continuity of cycles. Even solitary moments are framed by this natural serenity. A fisherman cleaning nets by moonlight, or a woman tending a small lamp outside her home, experiences the same awe and calm as those sharing stories around the fire. The night sky is both a shared and personal presence, offering space for reflection, quiet work, or solitary contemplation. Observing the stars fosters a meditative quality, reminding villagers that while daily labor is important, the broader universe operates according to its own timeless rhythm. Finally, as the night deepens and all human activity slows, the village is enveloped in a profound stillness. The stars reach their zenith, mirrored perfectly in the slow-flowing waters of the Nile. Clay lamps burn low, hearths smolder, and even the faint hums of the previous evening fall silent. Children are asleep, adults rest or meditate, and the natural world continues its gentle symphony. The sky above offers both a literal and figurative horizon, infinite, constant, and comforting. In these moments, the rhythm of village life aligns seamlessly with the vast celestial order, creating a perfect balance between human intimacy and cosmic continuity. As the last light of day fades over the sleepy towns along the Nile, the focus of evening gradually shifts from human activity to the quieter world of the animals that share the village. Around the edges of homes and fields, small pens and enclosures begin to fill with livestock settling down for the night. Goats, their soft fur catching the dim glow of the remaining hearth fires, move toward familiar corners, noses twitching in recognition of the scents of hay, grain, and river reeds. Sheep, slightly larger and with wool still warm from the day's sun, gather together, pressing close to one another for comfort and security. Their bleats are gentle, almost conversational, blending with the subtle rustling of straw and the occasional clatter of a feeding bowl. The cadence of their movements is calm and predictable, creating an audible rhythm that eases the transition from day to night. Chickens, too, participate in the evening ritual. They hop quietly onto low perches, feathers ruffling softly as they settle into roosts. Their small bodies huddle in triangular formations, seeking warmth from one another. Some flap occasionally, adjusting wings or shifting feet, producing tiny, fleeting sounds that vanish almost immediately into the hush of twilight. The combined murmur of goats, sheep, and chickens forms a delicate background hum, subtle yet constant, blending with the distant lap of river water and the gentle rustle of reeds. The village, human and animal alike, exists as a single living organism, each part contributing to the calm harmony of nightfall. Dogs, the loyal companions and guardians of the village, take up their positions near doorways, paths, or pen fences. Their bodies curl into tight circles, paws tucked beneath fur, ears occasionally flicking at the faintest sound, though some remain half-alert, listening for intruders or the rustle of nighttime creatures. Most surrender gradually to the rhythm of sleep, noses resting on forepaws, breathing slow and steady. The presence of these dogs reinforces a sense of security, both for the animals themselves and for the humans within the home. The dog's stillness mirrors the village's own slowing pulse, a reflection of safety and trust that permeates the air. Even smaller creatures contribute to this soft symphony. Cats, if present, pad quietly along rooftops or between mud walls, hunting insects or simply exploring familiar territory. Their movements are fluid and cautious, each step deliberate, adding another layer of gentle sound to the night. Frogs and crickets occupy the riverbanks and fields beyond the immediate village, offering subtle, rhythmic choruses that stretch into the distance. Birds, having settled in the tallest palms and date trees, add intermittent rustling, a reminder of life continuing quietly in every corner of the environment. Even as human voices fade, the village remains alive with understated, harmonious movement. Within pens and stables, the villagers themselves occasionally check on their animals, moving silently to ensure comfort and safety. A hand smooths the back of a sheep or scratches behind a goat's ear. A small bowl of water is refilled, or scattered grains added to a trough. These actions are gentle, unhurried, performed with a soft rhythm that mirrors the natural pace of the evening. There is no urgency, only care. The act of tending livestock before nightfall reinforces bonds between humans and animals, creating mutual trust that carries into sleep. In these moments, the animals are not simply property or resources, they are companions, participants in the household's nightly ritual. The Nile itself participates in the quiet. The gentle flow of water reflects the dim glow of moonlight and the few remaining fires, providing a sense of continuity and calm. Boats, once laden with fish or reeds, now drift stationary, tethered to posts or banks. The sound of water lapping softly against holes blends seamlessly with the chorus of animal breath, wing, and paw. The river, steady and patient, mirrors the village's transition into rest, offering both a visual and auditory anchor for the night. Villagers may stand briefly by the riverbank, observing animals and water together, allowing themselves a moment of reflection before returning to warmth inside their homes. Seasonal changes bring subtle differences to this nightly pattern. In colder months, animals huddle more tightly, pressing into one another for warmth. Additional straw or reeds may be added to pens to insulate against chill. In warmer seasons, animals may spread slightly more, enjoying gentle evening breezes. Chickens sometimes roost slightly higher, goats might graze a little longer into the fading light, and dogs linger outdoors, enjoying the warmth of residual sun on mud walls. Yet regardless of season, the rhythms remain consistent. Settling, breathing, shifting, and eventually stillness. These patterns provide villagers with a comforting constancy, reinforcing the sense that life, though varied, follows predictable cycles that can be observed and trusted. The behavioral routines of the animals influence human routines subtly, but profoundly. Children are often tasked with helping secure pens or guide animals to roosting areas, learning through repetition the importance of care, timing, and attention. Their movements are soft, careful, and infused with awareness of the creature's needs. Adults move alongside them, instructing gently or correcting a misstep with quiet guidance. These moments serve as teaching opportunities and as calming rituals, reinforcing responsibility and attentiveness while preparing both humans and animals for the arrival of night. In some households, animals themselves inspire reflection and storytelling. Elders may recall the habits of goats or the behavior of chickens in past years, connecting these observations to broader lessons about patience, observation, and the rhythms of nature. Such reflections are never rushed or dramatic. Instead, they are shared slowly, with pauses and gentle emphasis, allowing younger villagers to absorb both knowledge and calm. Over time, these shared experiences cultivate a deep empathy for the natural world, teaching children that human life exists in harmony with animal life, rather than in opposition or dominance. By the time darkness fully claims the village, a profound stillness has settled. The animals breathe in unison, a soft, steady cadence that becomes almost hypnotic. Goats shift occasionally, nuzzling one another. Chickens tuck their heads beneath wings, their feathers rising and falling with gentle breaths. Dogs lie motionless near doorways, occasionally twitching in sleep. And even cats seem to move more slowly, indistinct shadows blending into the night. This quiet unity, the synchronization of human and animal routines, transforms the village into a singular living entity, a small ecosystem marked by rhythm, comfort, and safety. The village night is further enhanced by the interplay of natural sounds. Frogs croak in measured repetition, crickets chirp with subtle tempo, and water trickles over stones or along canal edges. Even these minor sounds contribute to a sense of continuity and calm. For villagers, these noises are neither startling nor intrusive. They are markers of order, signals that the world is functioning. normally, and reassurance that life flows uninterrupted through darkness. Children drift to sleep enveloped by this soft background, internalizing both its rhythms and its soothing qualities. In addition to reinforcing calm, the evening presence of animals provides subtle lessons in attentiveness and observation. Villagers learn to notice minor behavioral shifts, understanding what constitutes contentment, agitation, or fatigue. A goat shifting restlessly may signal discomfort or the need for attention. Chickens vocalizing softly might suggest approaching weather change. Dogs pacing lightly might indicate a passing traveler or a distant sound. By observing and responding with gentle care, villagers cultivate mindfulness, patience, and empathy, qualities that extend into human relationships and daily life. Even the physical design of pens and shelters reflects a harmonization with animal routines. Structures are often aligned to prevailing winds, river flow, or sunlight, ensuring comfort and safety. Simple gates or low walls allow movement without danger, while bedding of straw or reeds absorbs moisture and retains warmth. These practical considerations, integrated with the village's nocturnal rhythm, enhance the overall sense of calm. By attending to both animal and human needs simultaneously, the village demonstrates an intuitive understanding of coexistence and balance. By the deep hours of the night, almost all activity has ceased. The river glimmers faintly, animals breathe evenly, and the village rests in synchronized silence. Occasional distant sounds, a dog's twitching in dream, a chicken shifting slightly, or the faint rustle of reeds punctuate the quiet, but never disturb it. Humans, too, sleep deeply, comforted by the knowledge that the world around them continues predictably and harmoniously. The alignment of human and animal schedules, the familiarity of routines, and the gentle guidance of elders create an environment conducive to rest and reflection. Through generations, this pattern of shared evening rest has shaped both villagers and animals alike. Children growing up amidst these rhythms internalize the comfort and predictability of nature and society working together. Adults gain reassurance, knowing that care, observation, and respect for all living beings contribute to a safe, unified village. Animals, in turn, thrive in stable, attentive environments, reinforcing the village's overall health, cohesion, and well-being. This nightly settling is not merely functional, it is a cultural ritual, an unspoken affirmation of life's continuity and the gentle rhythms that govern existence along the Nile. By the time dawn approaches and the first hints of light touch the river, the village is transformed once more. Animals, rested and alert, begin to stir. Goats stretch and nibble early shoots. Chickens cluck softly as they descend from roosts. Dogs rise, shaking off sleep, ears twitching. This natural awakening mirrors the human cycle, a continuation of the peaceful interdependence established the night before. The cycle of settlement and awakening is endless yet comforting, teaching both patience and attentiveness, and reinforcing the quiet harmony that defines life along the Nile. Evenings along the Nile carried with them the subtle, persistent rhythm of the seasons, a rhythm that shaped the pace of life, the sensations of air and light, and the gentle routines of both humans and animals. Winter, arriving with a quiet and steady inevitability, brought longer nights and cooler air that seeped through mud walls and red mats. Fires burned brighter and longer, hearths glowing like small suns within homes, casting flickering shadows on walls adorned with simple tools, woven baskets, and drying herbs. Families gathered closer together, not only for warmth, but for comfort. The low murmur of conversation, the soft crackle of burning wood, and the occasional clink of a clay pot filled with barley or lentils created a gentle harmony, a calming soundtrack to the long evening. Children huddled beneath furs and woven mats, their tiny bodies absorbing the warmth and rhythm of the household, lulled into sleep by the combined presence of fire, family, and the quiet assurance of routine. Winter nights along the Nile were not harsh, but they carried a deliberate slowness. Water from irrigation canals cooled in the crisp air, forming soft mists that rose and curled above the riverbanks. This mist caught the faint glimmer of lantern light, reflecting it in a gentle shimmer across reeds and grasses. Animals settled earlier in their pens, pressing together for warmth. Goats and sheep leaned against one another, the steady rise and fall of their breathing echoing the calm pulse of human life inside the village. Chickens remained close to roosts, fluffing feathers against the cold, and dogs often nestled near doorways, alert yet relaxed, breathing slow and steady. Outside, the wind carried subtle scent smoke, dried grains, and the earthy smell of mud warmed by the day's sun. The villagers, familiar with the lengthening darkness, moved more slowly, performing evening tasks with quiet efficiency and allowing the extended hours to unfold without hurry. As winter waned, spring approached with a gentler, more fragrant energy. The air softened, carrying the scents of blossoming reeds, riverbank flowers, and newly sprouting herbs. Frogs in the canals began their chorus, filling the night with steady, rhythmic sounds that mingled with the occasional call of a bird or the distant splash of fish leaping in the Nile. Spring evenings were longer in light, allowing villagers to linger outdoors for small tasks, steadying paths, collecting firewood, or examining freshly planted gardens. Children sometimes played longer in the dusk, their laughter light and infrequent, fading as the river's song and the calm of evening drew them indoors. Families still gathered around fires, but the flames were smaller, more for ceremony and comfort than for heat, and the soft glow of clay oil lamps complemented the fading twilight. The sensory palette of spring was subtle and layered, the softness of warm breezes, the earthy fragrance of wet mud, the quiet vibrancy of small creatures awakening after a cool night. Spring was also a time for gentle attentiveness to the cycles of life. Goats and sheep grew leaner as fresh grasses appeared, and chickens began laying more frequently, adding a richness to evening meals. Dogs, now less burdened by cold, stretched and patrolled gently near doorways or pens, ensuring the security of the household without the heaviness of winter vigilance. Villagers observed these changes with a quiet, meditative interest, noting the interplay of growth and stability in both the natural world and their domestic routines. The rhythm of seasons was never abrupt. It flowed gradually, inviting calm observation and an acceptance of cyclical change. In this way, spring evenings along the Nile were infused with a sense of renewal and measured optimism, a gentle preparation for the fuller warmth of summer to come. Summer evenings carried their own unique textures. The air remained warm even after sunset, with gentle breezes moving along the river, cooling reeds, mud walls, and woven mats. Firelight was often minimal, used only in small quantities to illuminate evening chores or simple meals. Villagers lingered outdoors, enjoying the comfort of cooling wind and the soft sounds of frogs, insects, and the distant flow of the Nile. Children sometimes ran along paths between homes, their bare feet stirring dust or grass, before slowing as the dimming sun and the reflective water of the river signaled the approach of rest. The long evenings allowed for extended communal activities, whether the repair of fishing nets, the gentle weaving of mats, or the soft exchange of grain and food between neighbors. Summer nights were alive with subtle movement. Goats and sheep often remained partially outdoors, grazing briefly on evening vegetation before retreating to pens. Chickens wandered slightly beyond the immediate courtyard, picking insects in the cooling air. Dogs stretched lazily, sometimes pacing slowly in the dim light, their senses alert but unhurried. Even the river itself moved with a different rhythm. In summer, its surface reflecting streaks of moonlight and faint starlight, shimmering like liquid silver. Villagers' lives were intertwined with these patterns, watering small gardens, arranging bundles of reeds, or laying out mats and furs for the night. Evening meals were lighter, often taken outdoors, allowing families to enjoy the sensation of air and breeze while engaging in slow, intimate conversation. Autumn approached with a different set of textures and smells. The fields had been harvested, leaving behind the faint scent of drying grain and crushed earth. Evening light caught the dust of recently tilled soil, mixing with smoke from hearths and the soft fragrance of harvested vegetables drying for storage. Villagers moved among their homes and gardens with deliberate care, gathering remaining produce, stacking firewood for the cooler nights ahead, and observing the river's subtle fluctuations after the summer heat. Animals adjusted their routines, returning to pens slightly earlier, and children slowed their movements as daylight diminished more rapidly. Firelight returned to a central role in homes, casting golden halos over tools, mats, and cooking implements, softening shadows and inviting comfort. Each season's subtle differences, air temperature, scents, light, animal behavior, and human activity contributed to a living rhythm that became deeply familiar to villagers. The cyclical nature of time offered reassurance. After long nights, Of winter came renewal in spring, warmth and leisure in summer, and preparation for rest and reflection in autumn. Observing these changes, both human and animal participants in village life internalized a sense of continuity. There was no rush, no abrupt movement, only a steady unfolding, punctuated by firelight, river sounds, animal breathing, and the gentle cadence of human routines. In every season, the river remained a constant companion, influencing the timing and texture of life. In winter, it reflected muted, pale light, carrying small mists and cooling winds. In spring, it shimmered with new vibrancy, providing water for gardens and small reeds that nourished animals. In summer, it became a mirror of heat and light, offering a gentle cooling influence for both humans and livestock. In autumn, it reflected soft, golden hues, marking the passage of time alongside the scent of harvested fields. The Nile's presence tied each season together, offering both consistency and subtle change, a living timeline for those who depended upon its steady, patient flow. Villagers often marked seasonal changes in the quietest ways: a longer evening spent repairing a fishing net in spring, an earlier collection of firewood in autumn, the placement of fresh bedding for animals in winter, or lingering outdoors in summer to watch fireflies dance above the river. Each action was slow, deliberate, and rhythmic, reinforcing the intimate connection between human life, animal life, and the natural world. Children learned attentiveness and patience, absorbing the unspoken lessons of subtle change, while adults practiced care, observation, and continuity, weaving these habits into the structure of the household and community. By the end of each seasonal evening, the village fell into a universal rhythm of calm. Animals breathed evenly in pens, dogs curled at doorways, chickens rested softly on perches, fires dwindled to embers, clay lamps glowed faintly, and the faint hum of insects and river water blended into a soothing background. The interplay of seasons, light, temperature, sound, and scent created a sensory tapestry that guided villagers toward rest, reflection, and preparation for the day to come. Every evening, no matter the season, reinforced both the passage of time and the comfort of routine, instilling a sense of peace, harmony, and gentle continuity that defined life along the Nile. The villagers' understanding of these cycles extended beyond the purely practical. Seasonal shifts were woven into cultural rhythms, rituals of thanks after harvest, careful tending of animals in winter, celebration of renewal in spring, and social gatherings in long summer evenings. These practices, however small or subtle, allowed humans to participate consciously in the passage of time, aligning personal and communal life with natural patterns. There was an unspoken reassurance in knowing that the river, the stars, and the animals followed these rhythms, and that human activity was part of a larger, patient, and enduring pattern. By integrating observation, care, and gentle participation in seasonal change, villagers cultivated a profound empathy and awareness. Children learned by watching elders tend animals or gather resources at appropriate times. Adults refined their understanding of environmental cues, animal behavior, and plant cycles. Even the smallest routine, arranging straw bedding for winter, hanging herbs to dry in summer, or ensuring adequate water in spring, enforced the harmony of life. Every task and observation became a meditation on timing, rhythm, and patience. By the time night fully enveloped the village, no matter the season, there was a pervasive sense of calm satisfaction. Fires glowed softly, lamps illuminated small corners, animals rested peacefully, and humans slept or prepared for sleep with deliberate care. The sensory landscape, warmth, light, sound, and scent was tailored by the season, but the underlying rhythm remained unchanged. Life flowed in quiet, observable patterns, fostering trust, continuity, and security. Villagers rose in the morning, carrying the lessons and comfort of these rhythms into the day ahead, while the cycle of seasons continued its gentle, predictable journey along the Nile. Evenings along the Nile were not only a time for quiet reflection, gathering by fire, or sharing meals. They were also dedicated to the gentle maintenance of health and the careful preparation for rest. Life in the villages was shaped by long days of work tending animals, tending fields, weaving mats, repairing homes, or fishing along the river. Each activity required energy, patience, and strength. By evening, bodies were often tired, muscles sore, and minds slightly fatigued from the routines of labor. The villagers had learned, over generations, that the transition from day to night needed to be deliberate, unhurried, and restorative. Small, careful rituals punctuated this time, designed to refresh both body and spirit, allowing inhabitants to recover from the day and face the new one with readiness. The first attention in many households was directed toward basic cleanliness. Hands were washed in small clay basins filled with cool water, sometimes scented with crushed herbs or flowers gathered from nearby fields. Faces were rinsed, removing dust, sweat, and the small particles of mud that had accumulated during work in the gardens or along riverbanks. In larger homes, the water might be warmed slightly over the evening fire, providing a gentle contrast to the cool night air. This simple act of washing was never rushed. Children, guided by parents or older siblings, learned patience in these quiet motions, the water flowing steadily and rhythmically over skin, encouraging relaxation and mindfulness. Even the smallest detail, a careful drying with a soft linen cloth, the gentle smoothing of hair, was part of the evening's slow preparation for sleep. Beyond cleanliness, villagers attended to sore muscles and minor strains accumulated during the day. Arms and legs, stiff from work, were massaged with herbal oils made from plants grown along the riverbanks or in small garden plots. The scents of chamomile, rosemary, or similar local herbs filled the air, blending with smoke from nearby fires and the earthy aroma of the Nile soil. Passage was a gentle ritual, performed with mindful attention and care, often shared between family members. A parent might rub a child's tired limbs before bed, while partners or older siblings helped one another with larger muscles that had borne the weight of baskets, bundles of reeds, or labor in the fields. Each stroke of the hand, each careful motion, was designed to relieve tension, encourage circulation, and signal the body that the day's labor was done. There was no rush, no distraction, only the soothing rhythm of touch, scent, and warm oil permeating the home. Warm herbal drinks were another integral part of these evenings. Infusions brewed from local plants, mild, calming, and nourishing, were consumed slowly, in small clay cups. These drinks provided not only hydration, but also comfort, their warmth wrapping around the drinker as they sipped. Ingredients varied by season and availability: chamomile-like flowers for gentle sleepiness, mint or lemon balm for soothing the stomach after a long day, or lightly sweetened infusions using dried dates or figs for subtle nourishment. Drinking was not hurried. Families often gathered near the fire or beneath soft lamplight, sipping quietly, occasionally exchanging low words or smiles, but mostly allowing the beverage to work its quiet magic. Children learned, over repeated evenings, the calming effects of these routines, associating warmth, flavor, and rhythm with safety and care. The very architecture of homes contributed to rest and recovery. Mud walls and reed roofs provided insulation from both heat and cold, maintaining steady interior temperatures that softened the transition from day to night. Floors, often swept and lightly dusted, carried the warmth of earlier sun and human activity, offering comfortable spaces for sitting or reclining. Woven mats and animal hides were spread for children and adults alike, ensuring that sleep was supported by softness and insulation. Small clay oil lamps were lit after dusk, casting a gentle glow across walls, floors, and simple furnishings. These lamps were never bright enough to startle or overstimulate. They offered enough light to continue minor tasks or quiet reflection, while preserving a tranquil, dreamlike atmosphere. As bodies relaxed into these spaces, minds also found calm. Villagers valued not only physical rest, but mental and emotional restoration. Evening routines incorporated moments of quiet reflection, gratitude, or gentle acknowledgement of the day's efforts. Some families offered a whispered thanks for harvests, fish caught, or the simple continuation of life, while others might reflect silently, observing the river's slow movement, the soft glow of the setting sun, or the stars beginning to appear overhead. These moments encouraged a gentle release of tension, a mental preparation for sleep, and an awareness of the continuity of life, the cycle of work, rest, and renewal that defined each day. Children, especially, benefited from these layered practices. They were gradually introduced to hygiene, massage, warmth, herbal drinks, and quiet reflection in ways that felt natural and comforting. Parents or elders led by example, demonstrating care in their own routines and guiding children through mirrored actions. Hands were washed slowly, small herbs rubbed into muscles under warm oil, and herbal drinks sipped while firelight danced. Across walls, these repeated actions established patterns of calm and mindfulness, embedding a sense of bodily awareness and self-care from an early age. Even the sensory environment of these evenings contributed to recovery. The sounds of the Nile, flowing gently nearby, provided a natural white noise that blended with the soft hum of animals settling for the night. Chickens roosted silently, goats and sheep breathed steadily in pens, and dogs curled at doorways, their movements slow and predictable. Occasionally, the distant call of a fisherman returning home or the faint splash of a paddle in the river punctuated the quiet. These sounds, familiar and non-threatening, reinforced the villagers' sense of safety and relaxation. The scent of the river mingled with the smoke from fires, dried herbs, and cooking, creating a layered olfactory environment that was both calming and grounding. The preparation for sleep itself was a continuation of these restorative practices. Once hygiene, massage, drinks, and reflection were complete, families settled on mats or hides. Children were tucked close to parents or siblings, absorbing the warmth, smell, and sound of a secure household. Adults, too, found comfort in proximity, sharing space that balanced intimacy and personal rest. The fire was reduced to embers, and lamps were dimmed, leaving only the faint glow necessary to maintain a gentle sense of orientation. Breath deepened, bodies relaxed, and the mind began to follow the rhythm established by evening routines toward slumber. Sleep was considered an essential, natural extension of evening care. Villagers did not treat it as a pause or interruption, but as a restorative period, critical for both physical health and emotional resilience. The deliberate, slow progression from labor to hygiene, massage, hydration, reflection, and finally bedding reinforced a deep respect for bodily needs. Every action, washing, rubbing, sipping, observing, was performed with intention, cultivating a state of calm that allowed sleep to arrive without struggle or stress. Even minor illnesses or fatigue were approached with gentle attentiveness. Rest was valued as treatment, and interventions were simple: warm herbal compresses, lightly applied oils, or soothing teas. There was no urgency, no alarm. Villagers trusted the natural processes of recovery, believing in the body's inherent capacity to heal when given a quiet, supportive environment. The rhythms of evening firelight, lamp glow, softened voices, slow movement, and the presence of the river outside provided a framework in which both children and adults could experience restorative rest. As the night deepened, homes became sanctuaries. Sounds softened, movements slowed, and every element, light, warmth, scent, and texture, was aligned to encourage comfort and recovery. Even the positioning of mats, the layering of furs, and the careful arrangement of tools reflected an understanding that physical and mental preparation were intertwined. Villagers drifted into sleep in a state of gentle satisfaction, bodies restored and minds at ease, ready to greet the river, animals, and work of the following day. Health and rest in these evenings were not separate practices, but deeply woven into the tapestry of daily life along the Nile. Work, play, care for others, and attention to the cycles of nature all informed evening routines. The deliberate slowing, gentle rituals, and attentive observation fostered resilience, empathy, and continuity. By honoring the quiet, restorative hours of the night, villagers maintained not only their bodies but also the rhythms of community, nature, and the river itself. Through these practices, every night became an opportunity for renewal, a predictable yet comforting part of existence. The combination of hygiene, massage, herbal drinks, restful positioning, gentle reflection, and attentive care created a holistic environment that supported physical health, mental clarity, and emotional well-being. Children grew into adults, familiar with these rhythms. Adults perpetuated practices learned in youth, ensuring that the cycle of care, observation, and rest continued seamlessly from generation to generation. In the long evenings along the Nile, health and rest were inseparable from the sensory, relational, and seasonal contexts of village life. Each flicker of lamp, each touch of oil, each sip of warm herbal drink, and each moment of quiet reflection contributed to a profound sense of security, comfort, and connection. Villagers moved slowly and deliberately, honoring both the needs of their bodies and the rhythms of the river, the seasons, and the community. Night after night, This cycle reinforced calm, stability, and gentle resilience. By the end of the evening, homes were hushed, animals rested, children slept, fires glowed faintly, and the river flowed steadily under the starlit sky. The rituals of hygiene, massage, herbal drink, and quiet reflection had done their work. Bodies were soothed, minds calmed, and spirits prepared to enter sleep naturally. This comprehensive care, simple, deliberate, and deeply human, ensured that villagers awoke refreshed, ready to resume the rhythms of labor, play, and connection with the world around them. The homes of the Nile's sleepy villagers were more than mere shelters. They were carefully shaped spaces that nurtured warmth, comfort, and a sense of belonging. Constructed primarily from mud brick, timber, reeds, and occasional stone, these dwellings reflected generations of observation and adaptation, designed to meet both the demands of climate and the rhythms of daily life. Walls were thick and textured, their clay surfaces absorbing the heat of the sun during the day and releasing it slowly as night fell, offering a gentle, steady warmth to all inside. Roofs made from layers of reeds or thatch softened the sounds of rainfall, letting droplets fall with muted rhythm rather than startling clatter, creating a calm, auditory backdrop that encouraged relaxation. Even the arrangement of doors and windows reflected an understanding of light, airflow, and temperature. Small openings allowed moonlight to filter in, casting soft, shifting patterns across walls and floors, while letting breezes circulate without chilling interiors too abruptly. Inside, the floor was considered as important as the walls or roof. Often swept clean daily, it carried both the physical and symbolic role of order and care. Woven mats, carefully placed, cushioned the floor for sitting, working, and sleeping. Animal hides or layered reeds provided extra insulation during cooler months, ensuring that bodies resting upon them were supported, warm, and protected from the chill of night. Each household organized these spaces thoughtfully, with areas for cooking, crafting, weaving, and gathering arranged so that light, heat, and movement flowed naturally. Even in the smallest homes, a sense of rhythm and function prevailed, with corners dedicated to storage, food preparation, or quiet reflection. The careful balance of warmth, light, and space shaped the way inhabitants experienced evenings, subtly guiding them toward calm and restorative rest. At the heart of each home stood the hearth, often simple yet central to both physical and social life. Fires were kindled with reeds, dried wood, or small bundles of brush, their flames watched attentively and carefully maintained. The glow of firelight spread across walls, illuminating earthen pots, woven baskets, and the tools of daily labor, making the most humble objects appear gentle and inviting. Smoke spiraled slowly upward, mingling with the scent of cooking food, herbal oils, and the earthy aroma of mud walls, creating an enveloping sensory experience that balanced warmth and comfort. Beyond its practical function, the hearth served as a center for familial gathering, reflection, and quiet conversation, drawing household members together and establishing a rhythm to the evening that encouraged both attentiveness and relaxation. Even the placement of objects within homes contributed to comfort and a sense of security. Tools used during the day, simple knives, weaving implements, farming utensils were cleaned, organized, and stored carefully. Food, whether fresh bread, dried grains, or preserved vegetables, was placed in baskets or clay pots, ensuring accessibility while maintaining order. Water vessels, often made from clay or reed, were positioned within reach for practical use, while small lamps rested nearby, ready to offer gentle illumination after sunset. Each item had a place, and each placement reinforced a sense of stability and calm. The very act of arranging and maintaining one's home became a ritual of care, an exercise in mindfulness that invited inhabitants to slow their pace and acknowledge the day's efforts before resting. The design and function of homes were intimately linked to the external environment. During the day, thick walls and shaded courtyards protected residents from the sun's heat, while narrow streets and alleys created sheltered pathways that reduced wind and dust. At night, these same structures captured warmth and muffled sounds, establishing interiors as sanctuaries of peace. Roofs of reeds or thatch softened the patter of rain, while clay walls kept interiors insulated against sudden cool breezes. Windows were deliberately small, allowing the moon and stars to filter in softly rather than starkly. creating gentle, shifting light that moved slowly across interiors as the night progressed. These architectural choices were practical yet poetic, merging function with a subtle aesthetic that enhanced tranquility and reflection. Lighting within homes was carefully moderated. Hearth fires provided warmth and illumination, but their glow was complemented by clay oil lamps filled with locally sourced oils. Their flames were steady and calm, casting soft, rounded shadows that moved slowly across walls and floors. The combination of lamp and hearthlight offered visibility without overwhelming the senses, enabling evening tasks to continue gently while maintaining an atmosphere conducive to rest. Families could weave, prepare food, or tend small children under this subdued glow, the movement of hands and shadows reinforcing a natural rhythm that echoed the slowing pace of the night. The careful management of light reflected a deep understanding of how illumination shapes mood, awareness, and the transition to sleep. The interiors themselves encouraged calm through organization and division of space. Sleeping areas were distinct from cooking areas, which in turn were separate from workspaces, though in smaller homes, multifunctional spaces were carefully managed to maintain order. Mats and furs defined areas for rest, while tables or low platforms organized tools and food. Children often slept close to parents, sharing warmth and security, while adults arranged sleeping mats to preserve both privacy and connectivity. Every spatial decision reinforced safety and comfort, contributing to the home as a cohesive, protective environment. This careful arrangement, repeated day after day and generation after generation, became a tacit cultural knowledge, teaching inhabitants to live in harmony with their surroundings and the natural cycles of light, temperature, and human activity. The sensory environment of the home was an integral part of its warmth. Fires and lamps radiated gentle heat, their light flickering across surfaces and creating a sense of living space. The air carried a mixture of scents: smoke, cooked grains, fresh herbs, and the lingering earthy aroma of mud walls. Each sense was engaged in a way that encouraged relaxation. Sounds of conversation were soft, footsteps muffled on mats, and even the occasional creak of wooden beams contributed to a subtle rhythm that reassured rather than startled. The overall atmosphere was one of calm attentiveness, a carefully balanced environment in which rest, work, and reflection could coexist peacefully. Seasonal rhythms also shaped the experience of homes. In colder months, walls absorbed sunlit warmth during the day, releasing it slowly into the evening. Families gathered more closely around the fire, layering furs and mats to preserve heat. In warmer seasons, windows and doors were opened selectively, allowing cool night breezes to enter while maintaining the steady illumination of lamps and fire. These adjustments were subtle, intuitive, and entirely integrated into daily life, reflecting a deep attunement to the surrounding environment. Homes were both responsive and stabilizing, providing continuity while adapting to the shifting cycles of the year. Homes were not merely physical spaces, they were vessels of emotional security. Within these walls, villagers found safety, privacy, and intimacy. Children felt protected under layered mats, parents shared quiet conversations, and elders could rest while remaining connected to household rhythms. Each wall, mat, and lamp contributed to a shared sense of order and care. These spaces nurtured relationships as much as they sheltered bodies, reinforcing the interdependence of practical, emotional, and social well-being. Families learned to read and respond to the subtle cues of their home environment, integrating care for self and others into the very architecture of daily life. Even the approach to night reflected the warmth and thoughtfulness of homes. Families moved slowly, finishing meals, tidying spaces, and preparing mats or furs. Firewood was replenished, lamps filled, and herbs or drinks arranged for comfort. These activities were performed deliberately, fostering reflection and calm. The home became a temporal buffer, marking the transition from activity to rest. Its design, light, and materiality all guided inhabitants gently towards sleep, reinforcing a sense of safety, continuity, and harmony with natural rhythms. In some homes along the Nile were carefully cultivated spaces of warmth, security, and reflection. Mud brick walls, reed roofs, organized interiors, subtle lighting, and attention to both material and sensory details created environments that nurtured body, mind, and spirit. Within these walls, families experienced not only shelter from the elements, but also a rhythm of care, continuity, and gentle social connection. Each night, as fires burned low and lamps glowed softly, the home fulfilled its role as a sanctuary, providing warmth, security, and a steady embrace that allowed all within to rest deeply, preparing for another day by the river. Evenings in the villages along the Nile often held a quiet rhythm beyond the boundaries of individual homes. As the sun lowered behind distant hills, painting the sky in soft hues of amber and lilac, doors opened gently and the narrow streets began to host a subtle, deliberate movement. Villagers, having completed the day's work and shared meals within their homes, occasionally ventured outside for brief, gentle visits. These excursions were not hurried or formal. They were fluid, unspoken traditions that strengthened the bonds of the community. A basket of freshly baked bread might be carried across the street to a neighbor whose hearth fire had dimmed early, or a small bundle of reeds, repaired or woven, might find its way to another household preparing for the night. Each offering was made with care, without expectation or ceremony, yet carried with it a profound sense of connection, a quiet acknowledgement that life in these settlements was inherently interdependent. The pace of these visits mirrored the gentle tempo of the Nile itself. As villagers approached one another, steps were measured, voices soft, and laughter restrained, blending naturally with the ambient sounds of evening. The distant call of a heron, the gentle ripple of water against reed-laden banks, and the faint crackle of distant fires formed a background that framed these social exchanges. In such moments, conversation flowed slowly, punctuated by shared observations of weather, crop conditions, or the subtle changes in the river's current. Children might trail behind their parents, watching the adults with quiet curiosity, absorbing not only the content of discussions, but the rhythms of social conduct, patience, attentiveness, and the gentle cadence of communal life. Within the homes visited, the same attention to calmness persisted. Neighbors exchanged items with care, clay pots, woven mats, or small quantities of food, handling them slowly, ensuring that objects and offerings were treated respectfully. The process of giving and receiving created a mutual reassurance. No household stood alone in its labors or needs. Stories were shared in hushed tones, often recounting minor, everyday events rather than grand tales. The sound of a tool carefully set down, or a basket gently placed on the floor, contributed to the overall feeling of measured peace. Even the simplest exchanges became rituals, reinforcing trust and reliability among those who shared the villages. Narrow streets and riverbanks, laughter and conversation, when they arose, were deliberate, subtle, and entirely appropriate to the evening. A quiet chuckle at a child's curious gesture, or a shared smile at a minor domestic mishap, carried warmth. Without urgency, these moments knit together the social fabric, fostering cohesion in a world where each household relied on neighbors for practical assistance, advice, and companionship. In many ways, the soft laughter and gentle chatter echoed the rhythm of the river, persistent, steady, and comforting, providing reassurance that life continued in a balanced and predictable manner. The river itself seemed to mirror these connections, its waters reflecting lamplight and firelight alike, a visual reminder that the community's energy flowed continuously, connecting households just as it carried the lifeblood of water to fields and homes. Seasonal changes subtly influenced these evening visits. In colder months, villagers lingered longer near hearths when entering another home, sharing warmth along with conversation. Smoke spiraled upward from multiple chimneys, mingling in the night air to create a gentle, fragrant haze that enhanced the sense of comfort and intimacy. In warmer seasons, evenings encouraged outdoor gathering. Neighbors might sit along the edges of the river, dipping hands in the cooling current while discussing the day's work or the progress of crops. Night air carried the mixed sense of flowering reeds, drying grain, and distant fires, forming a multi-sensory backdrop to calm interaction. Each visit became not just a practical exchange, but an opportunity to immerse oneself in the rhythm of the village, to observe, reflect, and participate in its subtle, ongoing harmony. Children's presence added another layer of life to these interactions. Often small and quiet, they moved carefully, observing the dynamics of adult exchanges. Some held tiny gifts, such as a sprig of herbs, a small fruit, or an errand for a parent. Their participation in these visits was as much a lesson in social connection as it was a minor contribution to practical tasks. Children learned to gauge tone, volume, and timing, understanding that the village's evenings were a shared experience requiring gentle presence. Watching elders exchange items or words, children absorbed the value of patience, the pleasure of simple companionship, and the unspoken rules that guided interaction. In these small, seemingly ordinary moments, knowledge of etiquette, empathy, and cooperation was transmitted with subtle grace. The physical environment of evening visits played a significant role in their calming effect. Narrow, winding streets, flanked by mud brick homes and shaded courtyards, guided movement at a natural, unhurried pace. The occasional reed fence or low wall provided soft boundaries, encouraging quiet reflection between neighbors and maintaining an atmosphere of privacy even amidst communal interaction. Lamps and fires, casting warm light across paths and doorways, illuminated steps without harsh brightness, ensuring that movement and observation could occur safely and serenely. Even the subtle sounds of the village, the distant bleat of sheep, the faint ripple of water along canal banks, and the whisper of night breezes through reeds created a backdrop that allowed conversation and movement to unfold in a natural, restorative cadence. These evening exchanges were not limited to practical concerns. They often carried elements of ritual, forming a bridge between daily labor and the onset of rest. A shared sip of water, a small token of food, or a brief recitation of traditional verses served to frame the visit within the larger context of village life. The simplicity of these acts reinforced calmness. No grand gestures were necessary, only attentiveness, presence, and gentle communication. The repetition of such rituals night after night embedded them into the village's collective consciousness, creating a cultural rhythm that emphasized reliability, mutual care, and the soothing constancy of human connection. Trust was a central element of these visits. Each household knew that leaving a gift or tool at a neighbor's door would be met with similar care and consideration. Such exchanges reinforced a shared understanding of responsibility, both practical and emotional. Villagers could rest easier, knowing that support was nearby, that minor needs or difficulties could be met through cooperative effort. This quiet mutual reliance was as essential to the village as water from the Nile or warmth from the hearth, forming an invisible but palpable network of security and reassurance that threaded through homes, streets, and families. Evenings were also opportunities for reflection and storytelling beyond individual homes. Neighbors might gather informally in a small cluster, watching the river's gentle flow or standing under the shadow of reeds and trees, sharing reflections on the day or observations of the land. Conversations ranged from the minute details of fishing and harvest to observations of stars and moonlight on the river, all carried out in soft, measured tones. These exchanges reinforced the sense of continuity, grounding villagers in the present while connecting them to past practices and communal knowledge. Each shared observation, laugh, or gesture became a quiet affirmation of belonging. As darkness deepened, these visits gradually waned. Households retreated, closing doors and extinguishing lamps while fires burned low. Children, having absorbed the calm energy of neighbors and elders, returned to mats and furs, drifting toward sleep under protective watch. The village, once alive with gentle movement and soft conversation, settled into a collective hush. Even the river seemed to slow in its flow, reflecting the subdued luminescence of lamps and stars, offering a visual echo of the village's calm. Through these nightly interactions, the social fabric had been reinforced, bonds quietly strengthened, and the sense of community deepened. Ultimately, neighbors' evening visits reflected a profound understanding of balance and rhythm. They were not hurried errands or obligations. They were intentional, measured acts that nurtured social cohesion, comfort, and shared calm. Each night, these gentle exchanges reminded villagers of the interwoven nature of their lives, the importance of empathy and attentiveness, and the value of shared experience. The continuity of these practices, repeated over years and generations, created a living tapestry of connection, gently holding together the human, animal, and environmental elements that defined life along the Nile. Through food, stories, laughter, and the soft rhythm of movement, the village existed as a unified whole, a space where evening and night were not simply transitions but carefully attended experiences of community, security, and enduring calm. As night deepened over the Nile villages, many evenings concluded, not with haste but with gentle, deliberate acts of reflection. After meals had been shared, fires tended, and children lulled to sleep, the adults often turned to small rituals of thanks and quiet prayer. These moments were not grand or ostentatious, nor did they require elaborate tools or complex recitations. Instead, they were simple gestures, whispered words, the scattering of a few grains of wheat into the fire, the careful arrangement of small offerings near the door, or the bow of the head in silence. The practice of expressing gratitude was as natural and steady as the river itself. Villagers acknowledged the earth, the water, the sun, and the unseen forces that guided life, giving voice to a sense of continuity, safety, and connection. Each ritual, no matter how small, carried meaning that transcended the act itself, offering a quiet assurance that the day's labor, joy, and challenges had been recognized and honored. The timing of these rituals was intentional. They took place in the dim glow of hearths or under the soft illumination of clay lamps. Shadows flickered across mud walls, lending a gentle motion to the otherwise still room, while the aroma of herbs or grains mingled with the scent of burning oil. The tactile sensation of warm air, soft mats beneath knees, or rough clay floors beneath hands reminded villagers that their practice was grounded in the tangible world as well as the unseen. Each movement, each whispered phrase, and each small offering became a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms, reinforcing the sense that even ordinary actions held significance when performed with care and attention. In some households, the practice of gratitude extended beyond individual expression. Families might gather together, forming a quiet circle around the hearth. Elders would nod toward the river, guiding younger members to acknowledge its steady flow and the life it sustained. A child might scatter a handful of grain into a small clay bowl, symbolically returning sustenance to the earth, while parents murmured soft words of appreciation for the day's harvest or protection. The interplay of light, shadow, and movement created a meditative atmosphere where the heart and mind could slow, and awareness of one's place within the natural and communal order deepened. Rituals of thanks were often synchronized with the cycles of the Nile and the seasons. In spring, prayers might emphasize growth, renewal, and the fertility of the fields. Summer rituals acknowledged protection from harsh sun and the preservation of crops. Autumn gave thanks for harvests, and winter offered reflection on the warmth of shelter and the endurance of family and community. Each seasonal adjustment reinforced the villagers' attunement to the natural world, and the rhythms of these rituals mirrored the cycles of life itself: sowing, growth, gathering, and rest. In observing these small, consistent acts, villagers internalized the steady patterns that shaped both the river and their own lives, creating a reassuring continuity that linked generations past and future. The physical environment enhanced these moments of quiet devotion. Courtyards, often surrounded by mud brick walls and shaded by date palms or low reeds, offered secluded spaces where villagers could kneel, bow, or sit without distraction. The faint rustle of leaves, the occasional drip of canal water, and the distant call of a night bird provided a natural backdrop that encouraged focus and introspection. Even the smallest sounds, the shift of a foot on a worn path, the movement of a mat, the snap of a twig, were absorbed into the evening's atmosphere, lending texture and depth to rituals that otherwise might seem simple. In this stillness, gratitude could be felt physically, as well as mentally or spiritually. The gestures themselves were gentle and intentional. Some households would place a small amount of water in a clay bowl, allowing it to shimmer in lamplight as a token of respect to the river. Others might lay a few herbs near a doorway or scatter grain for the birds, quietly recognizing the interdependence of humans, animals, and nature. The motion of these acts was slow and careful. Hands moved deliberately, eyes softened, breaths lengthened. Even the simplest ritual could occupy several minutes, ensuring that attention was given fully, without rush, and that the act of gratitude was fully embodied. Such mindfulness amplified the emotional resonance of these moments, embedding them deeply in memory and habit. Prayer and gratitude were rarely solitary in spirit, even when performed alone. The awareness of neighbors, of families down the lane, and of the village as a whole often suffused these practices. Villagers understood that others were performing their own small rituals simultaneously, creating an invisible web of reflection and thanks that linked the entire community. The collective effect of these quiet acts reinforced the sense of security and belonging. Night became not merely a time of physical rest, but a period in which the mind, heart, and spirit were nourished by acknowledgement, contemplation, and shared cultural rhythm. The rhythm of these rituals was deliberate. Movement, breath, and intention flowed in gentle cycles. A kneeling posture followed by a soft bow of the head, a scattering of grains, a pause to inhale the scented night air, a whispered acknowledgement of the river or ancestors. Repetition was key. Daily repetition formed habit, habit formed memory, and memory reinforced the sense that life had order, meaning, and gentle continuity. Even when fatigue tugged at limbs and minds, the familiarity of these acts offered comfort, making evening transitions smoother and more secure. Each ritual, though small in scale, carried a quiet weight that supported well-being and communal identity. These practices were also reflective, offering villagers a chance to contemplate minor worries or uncertainties of the day in a contained, constructive manner. Instead of letting concerns fester or dominate thought, gratitude and prayer allowed individuals to situate these thoughts within a larger context. The river, the land, and the ongoing cycle of village life provided perspective. The act of pausing, bending, speaking softly, or scattering a token into the fire shifted attention from immediate strain to enduring stability. Anxiety was absorbed into ritual motion, acknowledged but held lightly, while the surrounding calm of hearths, lamps, and seasonal scents reassured the body and mind. Children, too, were integrated into these nightly practices. Even the youngest, observed at imitating posture or soft utterances, learning early that reflection and gratitude were natural parts of daily life. Their participation, whether through simple gestures like placing a small leaf or grain, or through quiet observation, helped instill values of mindfulness, empathy, and appreciation for life's subtleties. Over years, these early lessons became internalized rhythms, carrying forward into adulthood, preserving continuity in practice and perspective. Beyond domestic settings, small communal rituals occasionally occurred in shared spaces near the Nile or at shrines, always understated and gentle. Villagers might gather in small numbers to offer thanks collectively, to mark transitions such as planting or harvest, or to reflect on seasonal changes. Even these gatherings were unhurried, marked by soft tones, deliberate movements, and a deep respect for presence rather than spectacle. The community learned that significance lay not in grandiosity, but in the consistency, intention, and shared awareness of these acts. The psychological effect of such rituals was profound. By regularly participating in structured, quiet acts of reflection, villagers fostered resilience, calm, and connection. Evening prayers and offerings reduced mental tension accumulated during labor, while promoting a sense of order and coherence. Hearts and minds could slow in response to ritualized activity, preparing bodies for rest. Over time, the predictable rhythm of gratitude, whether private or shared, became a stabilizing force in daily life, supporting both individual well-being and communal harmony. Ultimately, the rituals of thanks and quiet prayer exemplified the careful balance between human effort and natural order in the villages along the Nile. Work, sustenance, and social interaction occupied the day, while evening reflection allowed for pause, acknowledgement, and integration. The small gestures, slow movements, and deliberate words formed a bridge from action to rest, from labor to calm, and from the temporal to the eternal. In this way, gratitude was not an isolated sentiment, but a lived experience, woven into the very structure of evening life. These rituals, repeated night after night, created an enduring sense of continuity. Each small act connected past, present, and future generations, preserving knowledge of customs, moral awareness, and respect for natural rhythms. Night, far from being a void or interruption, became a container for reflection, learning, and emotional cohesion. The village itself seemed to breathe in response. Fires flickered gently, lamps glowed steadily, and even the river's currents seemed to mirror the calm, steady pulse of communal and individual life. In this shared embrace of gratitude and reflection, the villagers found security, peace, and the gentle assurance that life, though simple, was meaningful, ordered, and deeply connected. By recognizing the significance of the ordinary, villagers learned to find awe in routine, beauty in repetition, and reassurance in the cycles of existence. The simple acts of scattering grains, bowing heads, inhaling night air, or whispering thanks became profound reminders of human resilience, adaptability, and interconnectedness. Through these nightly rituals, life along the Nile was punctuated by moments of quiet reverence, moments that, though subtle, carried deep weight in shaping the emotional and spiritual life of each community member. Even as embers faded and lamps burned low, the impression of these rituals lingered. Households, cloaked in the soft glow of firelight, settled into rest with hearts and minds gently eased by the day's acknowledgments. Children slept soundly, parents and elders reflected with serenity, and the village, as a whole, carried forward a collective sense of calm, continuity, and grounded presence. In this atmosphere, gratitude was not a performance, nor a fleeting thought, but an ongoing, lived practice, creating a gentle, lasting harmony that marked the end of each day and prepared the community for the quiet promise of tomorrow. As the final embers in hearths faded to gentle coals, a profound stillness settled over the village along the Nile. The air, once filled with the soft hum of labor, laughter, and conversation, now seemed to slow, as if the river itself had taken a deep, unhurried breath. Each home, from the smallest mud brick dwelling to the slightly larger timber android structure, exuded a warmth that contrasted softly with the cool night air. Families tucked themselves closer, drawing blankets or mats around sleeping children, while elders lingered a moment longer near the fire, allowing the quiet glow to calm their thoughts before settling under the comfort of a simple mat. Windows framed pools of moonlight that glimmered faintly upon swept floors, illuminating scattered tools, baskets, or bowls in a serene, almost meditative glow. The village, in these moments, seemed suspended between day and night, between activity and rest, a space where time itself appeared to move in a gentler rhythm. The process of drifting into sleep was gradual and deliberate. It began with the soft drawing of air through tired lungs, the slowing of steps once hurried during the day, and the gentle lowering of voices that had carried tasks, storytelling, and minor disputes. Even the smallest household chores, such as tidying mats, stacking firewood, or arranging cooking implements, were performed with care and awareness, each motion part of the ritual that eased villagers from wakefulness to repose. The act of preparation for rest was as important as sleep itself, creating a boundary between the day's responsibilities and the restorative calm of the night. In these final moments, there was an unspoken acknowledgement of continuity. The river would continue its journey, the stars would trace their paths, and the cycle of work, rest, and reflection would return with the sun. Outside, the fields and gardens lay under a blanket of starlight. The fertile plains of the Nile, tilled and tended over generations, glimmered with the silver sheen of moonlight. Irrigation canals reflected faint patterns of the sky, creating shifting mosaics that shimmered gently in the dark. Birds, long gone to roost, were replaced by the soft chorus of nocturnal insects, the distant call of a night owl, and the subtle rustle of leaves in the river breeze. Even animals within the village participated in this transition. Goats and sheep huddled quietly in pens, chickens nestled together on low perches, and dogs curled in familiar corners, their steady breathing blending into the background of the night. The entire ecosystem, both human and animal, moved in concert toward rest, creating a natural rhythm that enveloped the community in tranquility. The sensory world of night offered a different kind of intimacy than the brightness of day. Moonlight, softened by mist rising from the river, cast gentle patterns across walls and floors, highlighting textures that were otherwise unnoticed in sunlight. The scent of cooling earth mixed with faint smoke from dying embers, providing a comforting reminder of both work accomplished and sustenance enjoyed. Occasionally, a breeze would stir reeds along the riverbank or carry the faint aroma of herbs hung to dry within homes. These subtle sensory details, so easily overlooked in the rush of daylight, became pronounced during evening stillness, reinforcing a sense of connection to the environment and the daily rhythm of life. Within homes, the psychology of night unfolded. In quiet layers, children, lulled by the low crackle of fires or the occasional hum of parents, relaxed into predictable patterns. Small hands unclenched, eyes closed, and soft breaths marked the descent into dreams. The predictability of evening, routine storytelling, meals, the tending of fires created a comforting structure, reinforcing safety and security. Adults, too, experienced a shift. Minds slowed from problem-solving and labor. Hearts settled into awareness of accomplishment and survival. and the gentle embrace of night allowed reflection on the day's events without urgency. This collective calm, shared across individuals, strengthened the social and emotional fabric of the village, binding community through the invisible threads of routine, presence, and quiet observation. The river itself seemed to mirror the village's transition. Its slow, steady current reflected the pale light of the moon, tracing silver streaks across water rippling in gentle rhythm. The occasional splash of a fish or the plash of a distant boat added soft punctuation to the otherwise continuous lullaby of flowing water. The Nile's constancy provided reassurance, even as the night deepened, even as human activity ebbed to silence. The river persisted, carrying sustenance, life, and connection through every village along its banks. Villagers, attuned to its patterns, internalized this rhythm, allowing the river's flow to shape their perception of time and continuity, reinforcing the deep sense of order that underpinned their evenings. Evenings in the village were punctuated by the quiet presence of lamps and remaining embers. Though firelight waned, the residual glow offered a final bridge between activity and rest. Clay lamps, burning oil slowly and softly, cast a golden, dreamlike illumination, highlighting the textures of walls, tools, and simple decorations. The interplay of flickering light and shadows created a meditative environment, allowing the mind to focus gently on familiar objects, patterns, and rituals. Such visual cues, subtle yet persistent, reminded villagers of human craftsmanship and presence, reinforcing feelings of belonging and calm in the face of darkness. In addition to visual and auditory cues, the tactile experience of night supported this gentle descent into sleep. Soft mats and blankets provided physical comfort, while the warmth retained from the day's labor and hearth fires offered a comforting counterpoint to cooling air. Hands resting on laps or lightly touching woven fabrics, the gentle pressure of blankets against the body, or the rhythmic sway of rocking infants contributed to a bodily sense of ease and safety. These small, physical sensations were intertwined with emotional and cognitive relaxation, producing a holistic experience of night as restorative and nurturing. As the village collectively drifted into sleep, a sense of timelessness emerged. Individual experiences, children dreaming, adults reflecting, animals resting merged into a larger pattern, a living tableau of nocturnal stillness. Time seemed to expand and slow, allowing villagers to feel a connection not only to the present but also to the continuum of past and future nights. The repetition of nightly routines, the predictable return of light and dark, and the steady presence of natural cycles provided reassurance that, regardless of daily challenges, life continued in measured, dependable rhythm. Even in the silence, communication persisted. The soft sounds of movement, shifting mats, the turning of a body. A quiet sigh created a subtle chorus that linked households, reminding villagers that they were part of a community even as consciousness faded. The environment itself, from the distant murmur of the river to the whisper of wind through reeds, seemed to participate in this gentle orchestration. The night was simultaneously personal and communal, intimate and expansive, grounding each individual in the larger flow of life while honoring the particularities of home, family, and self. The philosophy of night in these villages was implicit yet profound. Sleep was recognized not as absence but as an active, restorative state, essential for renewal of body, mind, and spirit. Villagers trusted the natural order. As darkness deepened, rest became inevitable, and the cycle of life continued uninterrupted. This trust fostered a mental and emotional ease, reducing anxiety about uncertainty and encouraging acceptance of the day's impermanence. By embracing night fully, the community cultivated resilience and an appreciation for the subtle, recurring beauties of existence. By the final hours, when embers had cooled and lamps burned their last, the village achieved perfect stillness. Only the river's gentle murmur, distant nocturnal life, and the occasional sigh of sleepers persisted. The homes glowed faintly under moonlight, a quiet testament to warmth, human presence, and continuity. Each household, wrapped in comfort and protection, contributed to a collective sense of serenity that stretched across the village, connecting individual experience to communal reality. Night's embrace was complete, a space of rest, reflection, and gentle assurance that life, in its simple rhythms and enduring cycles, was whole and sufficient. In these moments, villagers, learned the quiet lessons of patience, trust, and acceptance. They witnessed the effectiveness of rhythm, the power of consistency, and the subtle ways in which small gestures, routines, and attentiveness shaped emotional life. The night, a constant companion, offered opportunities for reflection, for letting go of the day, and for anticipating tomorrow with calm expectation. Each evening reinforced the understanding that life need not be dramatic to be rich, that safety and beauty could be found in ordinary, repeated acts, and that the most profound experiences often occur in silence, stillness, and attentiveness to the world around and within oneself. By dawn, the cycle would resume. The river would glisten, children would awaken, fires would be rekindled, and work would recommence. Yet the impressions of night lingered, subtle, nourishing, and formative. Each evening's embrace, each shared, quiet moment, and each ritualized act of rest or reflection accumulated, weaving a pattern of continuity, comfort, and gentle human presence. The night was both teacher and companion, instructing through stillness and modeling harmony, while offering solace and renewal. Thus, in the villages along the Nile, drifting into night's embrace was not merely an ending, but a profound, immersive, and restorative experience. Darkness, far from frightening, was a gentle container holding warmth, memories, and the promise of tomorrow. Each ember, each whisper, each breath became part of an ongoing meditation on life, rhythm, and the quiet poetry of ordinary existence. The village slept, yet life was vibrant in its subtlety, and the river flowed, a timeless witness to the nightly serenity of human hearts and homes. As our journey through the sleepy towns along the Nile comes to a close, it is worth pausing to reflect on the quiet rhythms that defined each evening, each household, and each life along the river. The stories, fires, meals, and gentle routines that filled these villages were small in scale but immense in significance, creating a tapestry of human experience threaded with simplicity, care, and continuity. Night, in particular, revealed its quiet power, a time when work faded, voices softened, and both people and animals surrendered to rest, allowing the body, mind, and spirit to realign with the natural flow of the world. Throughout these towns, dusk was never abrupt or alarming. It arrived gradually, like the soft lowering of a curtain, revealing the subtle beauty of transition, the golden light that lingered on mud-brick walls, the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a cooling breeze, and the reflective shimmer of the Nile itself combined to create a sensory environment perfectly suited to contemplation and calm. Villagers moved within this soft envelope with care. Fires were tended, lamps lit, mats arranged, and meals prepared, all performed with deliberate attention and unhurried rhythm. Each action was imbued with meaning, not dramatic or urgent, but essential in sustaining both home and heart. Fire, as we have seen, was more than a source of warmth, it was a focus for connection and reassurance. Families gathered around embers, listening to the crackle and pop of wood while sharing stories and observing minor, comforting details of daily life. These fires marked the boundary between day and night, labor and rest, chaos and calm. They reminded everyone of safety and presence, anchoring both physical and emotional experience in a steady, nurturing rhythm. The soft glow of clay lamps complemented this, filling corners with gentle light, allowing hands to work, eyes to rest, and minds to wander into the gentle contours of memory and imagination. Meals, simple and nourishing, were another element that reinforced evenings. Quiet wisdom, barley, lentils, vegetables, bread, and the occasional sweet fruit formed sustenance that went beyond physical nourishment. Eating together, slowly and with attention, strengthened bonds and provided reassurance that labor had borne fruit and that the coming day would arrive as predictably as the river's flow. Even the smallest act, breaking bread, sipping a warm, herbal drink, arranging bowls for children carried subtle weight, grounding the villagers in continuity and shared human experience. Stories carried on the riverbanks and near fires were equally vital. Tales of ancestors, animals, stars, and the river itself wove together the community's knowledge, values, and collective memory. These narratives, soft in tone but resonant in meaning, taught lessons without urgency, reminded listeners of belonging, and lent a sense of wonder to the ordinary. Repetition of familiar tales created safety, while small variations in detail offered curiosity and attention. In these simple narratives, the past and present met, creating an unbroken thread that linked generations and strengthened the village's sense of identity. Seasonal rhythms added another layer of gentle wisdom to village life. Winter nights called for closer fires and the comfort of shared warmth, while summer allowed for extended outdoor gatherings and contemplation beneath the stars. Spring brought the sounds of frogs and the scents of blossoms, autumn the aroma of drying grain and cooled earth. Each season shaped sensory perception, household habits, and community interactions, teaching villagers to attune themselves to the cycles of life. This awareness of recurring patterns reinforced reassurance and patience, qualities that became inseparable from the experience of evening and night. Animals, too, participated in these nocturnal rituals. Goats, sheep, chickens, and dogs each had their routines, echoing and enhancing human rhythms. Their quiet presence, the steady breathing of a resting flock, the rustle of feathers, the occasional low whine or murmur blended seamlessly with the environment, creating an encompassing harmony. Humans observed these creatures, learned from them, and drew comfort from their synchronized stillness, finding in animal behavior a mirror of patience, predictability, and the gentle cadence of life. Health and rest were considered sacred aspects of evening. Rituals of washing, massaging with herbal oils, and sipping warm infusions were performed, not out of urgency, but as part of a daily commitment to care and restoration. Villagers respected the slow transition towards sleep, acknowledging that rest itself was a form of healing, a resetting of body and spirit for the day to come. By observing these patterns consistently, the community cultivated resilience, self-awareness, and a deep appreciation for the subtle ways in which ordinary routines contributed to long-term well-being. Homes, modest in size but rich in function, were carefully constructed to support these nightly rhythms. Mud walls retained heat, thatched roofs softened sound, and small windows framed moonlight while keeping drafts at bay. Interiors were arranged for comfort and efficiency. Mats, blankets, and hides providing both warmth and psychological reassurance. Each house became a sanctuary, a small world that contained memories, relationships, and the immediate pulse of daily life. The architecture itself, though unadorned, reflected an intimate understanding of human needs and environmental cycles, reinforcing peace and stability each evening. Even visits between neighbors carried calm significance. Sharing food, exchanging tools, and offering gentle companionship strengthened communal bonds. These acts, conducted slowly and without urgency, reminded everyone that isolation was rare, and that community was built through subtle, repeated gestures. Laughter, soft conversation, and shared work created social glue that persisted even after individuals retreated into their homes. The quiet generosity of these connections fostered cohesion, resilience, and a shared understanding of the village as an interconnected, caring organism. At the final edge of each night, rituals of thanks and quiet reflection provided closure. A whispered acknowledgement to ancestors, the earth, or unseen forces reminded villagers of continuity beyond themselves. Even simple gestures, sprinkling grains into a fire, pausing in silence, strengthened their connection to the world, instilling humility and balance. These practices, soft yet consistent, emphasized the harmony between human life and larger forces, embedding gratitude and reflection into the very structure of evening. Ultimately, drifting into night's embrace was the culmination of all these elements: the soft light of fires and lamps, the smells and tastes of modest meals, the flow of water in the Nile, the rhythm of seasons, the presence of animals, the sanctuary of homes, the bonds of neighbors, and the gentle rituals of care and gratitude. Each layer contributed to an immersive, restorative, and deeply human experience. Sleep was not simply the absence of activity. It was a conscious participation in continuity, a surrender to rhythms both natural and communal, a moment in which individuals, families, and entire villages reconnected to the slow, unchanging flow of life. As the night deepened, the village existed in a harmonious state where sound, light, scent, and touch blended into a soft, meditative pattern. The river glistened under stars, shadows lengthened, and embers cooled, yet the warmth of homes and the presence of loved ones sustained a quiet vitality. By morning the cycle would resume, yet the impressions of night lingered: comfort, connection.com, and an enduring sense of security. Life, in these sleepy towns along the Nile, was not hurried, spectacular, or tumultuous. It was measured, gentle, and profoundly restorative. In closing, these towns teach us something timeless. The most profound elements of human life are often found in the ordinary, in slow evenings, quiet companionship, shared meals, and the careful tending of home and hearth. The Nile, constant and patient, mirrored the rhythm of villagers' lives, offering lessons in trust, continuity, and serenity. Each day's labor, each night's rest, each small gesture of care contributed to a resilient, nurturing pattern that sustained both body and spirit. By observing and embracing these patterns, we are reminded that the richness of life often lies not in grand events, but in the small, repeated acts of presence, attentiveness, and quiet reflection. Let us carry the gentle wisdom of these nights with us, the value of slowing, the importance of care, the comfort of routine, and the serenity of resting fully in the embrace of time and place. In the quiet towns along the Nile, every evening was a meditation, every night a teacher, and every sunrise a continuation of a rhythm that has existed for centuries. May we, too, find peace in rhythm, warmth in simplicity, and calm in the ordinary, remembering that in small, measured, and mindful moments, life reveals its deepest contentment.